Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to D&D Mushoku Tensei, a Jobless Reincarnation. Tonight, we are on a very special episode. So this is the in-between Season 1 and 2 Ultra Breakdown, Incredible Extravagant, Comment Extravaganza, Tier List Extravaganza, Yap Extravaganza, plus Eris POV episode. Boom! So, the plan is as follows. What is my plan? I'm forgetting. The plan is as follows. I'm gonna yap. I'm gonna start with a lot of yapping. I got some yap points found and ready. We're gonna yap. Then and it's gonna be mostly about Eris. We're gonna yap about Eris. Then, what is next on the plan? Then I'm gonna read the Eris POV. I have the Eris POV thing that was shared. I haven't read any of it yet, so I'm gonna read that, give some thoughts on that. Then we're gonna read comments for the last 3 episodes. By the way, there's about 120 of them, and I haven't read any of them yet, but they did get spoiler checked, so that's cool. Good. I appreciate all the comments. That's always good to see. And then last of all, what do we do? Tier list. I'm going to do a little tier list. I'm not going to do probably a lot at that point. I don't know. We're just going to see what happens. We're in for the long haul. Your boy's got himself a Dr. Pepper. Hey, I'm just trying to bring the mood up. I'm just trying to bring the mood up because it's about to get crazy. So, yeah, oh boy, what a time. So it's been like, I think 3 days, roughly, since I watched the last one, because I watched all 3, the last 3 episodes I watched together, right? So it's been about 3 days since then. So, I've had a couple conversations in the Discord, which have been, pretty long and crazy, but enjoyable. So that's been happening. A lot of time just sitting and thinking about it. Literally last night, I think it took 2 hours for me to fall asleep, because I'm sitting there laying in bed going, Eris, what is happening? It's been taking sleep from me, but that's okay. That's what shows do when you invest too much. Or not enough, who knows. But yeah, so let me grab my whiteboard and my personal notes. Okay, we have a full page of personal notes so I remember some of the talking points, giving a business presentation. And then we have my fun questionnaire board. So I'm gonna read this. Because I know my handwriting's garbage, but I'm gonna read this first. Let me like show you it. Okay, take your pictures. And yeah, let me read this. So the question, the list goes as follows. And because this culminates in the judgment of Rudy and like the scene in general of Rudy and Eris having sex, right? That's the talking point of the day. And what that goes back to, I've kind of like moved it all the way back to the top, is it goes mostly for me, I think, back to the mental stability of Eris, right? Because as much as the age is like an issue and something that we could talk about, the thing that is even more important to me, I think, I don't know about more important, it's hard to weigh them because it's just crazy, but the thing that I'm mostly focusing on is the whole Eris has just gotten it revealed that her parents and her grandfather is dead to her, and the night of getting that reveal, she comes to Rudy and says, hey, let's sleep together, right? It's the trauma part. That's what worries me, because the general idea that leaves me is she is because yeah, my general take before that, like, I'm currently at, but I'm still parsing through it in the Eris POV reading. I think it might shift this a lot, so I'm trying to get it out now. Is that Eris has this thing happen, right? She gets this big reveal that everyone's dead. That causes a lot of mental like ouchies, and so when she, as part of her mourning process for these big events, rather than mourning in a healthy way, she goes to Rudy and is like, hey, let's sleep together, because she's, in some way wants connection, wants emotional support, wants whatever. And I don't think sex is a healthy way to do that in this instance, right? That's kind of where I'm at. And so for Rudy to do that is, you could read it, and I don't know, I got my notes here, so I don't want to get too much into it right off the top, but you could read it as like him taking advantage of a person in mourning or whatever to fulfill his sex drive, right? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, let's go top to bottom so we can actually get into this hoe. Oh boy, I'm going to be here for a while. So we can actually get into this hoe and talk about it a little bit. I'm going to just put some takes out, and then we'll, or put some ideas out, rather. I like the word idea more than take. I'm going to put some ideas out, and then we will read that Eris POV. So, off the top ropes, how mentally stable is Eris? This is the question to me, and I put this little side thing of realistic question mark, because like, how realistic would her mental stability be if it's too high kind of thing? That is the question that's causing me a lot of like rethinking of Eris the character. Because, I mean, Eris, let me pull out my personal notes. The thing about Eris's mental stability is, like, so much of the show, she's been loud, right? Loud in her emotions, you know, like with throwing her, like, temper, stomping people's faces in. When Gillian gets respected, she cries to Rudy and is like, how could they do this, blah, 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 blah. So I usually, whenever she has an issue, right, she seems, what I'm used to her doing is being pretty, like, obvious about it, right? The thing we have, but that's different than what we saw, right? Because what we saw was her asking, like, in the episode with her parents, right, in the sex, what we saw was her asking, hey, y'all leave the room, right, in the tent, y'all leave the tent, including you, Rudy. We heard her cry, so that's her kind of going through it on her own, which is like, okay, we haven't really seen that before, which, I mean, it's kind of the funny point of, maybe we haven't seen that before because she keeps it to herself always, you know? Because, like, we only see it when she shows it to us, right? With, like, Gillian's disrespected, she goes and she, like, hugs Rudy, and, like, Rudy, like, comforts her a bit, and, like, and she's crying, and she's like, how could they, blah, 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 right? Because she loves Gillian so much. So for her to not do that immediately is like, okay, that makes me very worried, because this thing that's happened is either so extreme that it's causing, like, a different reaction entirely, that, like, instead of going to others, she's, like, shutting down and going into herself or something, or it's something that she's so prepared for that she doesn't even, like, feel the desire to, like, need to connect with other people and just handles it on her own, right? That's kind of the big question. So, yeah, like, she cries before with Rudy, to Rudy, right? With the Gillian thing. So, like, she's done that before, but she didn't do that this time. There's kind of the question, or, like, the point of, like, on how mentally stable is she? It's kind of the question of, like, how does she deal with loss, right? Because that's what this was. She lost her parents, or got it revealed that she had lost her parents. I know she's been, like, somewhat preparing for this, in a sense of, like, she wasn't necessarily keeping her hopes up, I guess you could say. We've only gotten a little bit of her saying that. But for her, you know, that's, like, a point that she kind of, it's not like she was blindsided by this, right? It's something that was on the table for her, for that to be revealed. The thing to me is, like, how much can a 15-year-old girl, like, truly be, like, ready for her parents and her grandfather to die, right? Like, even if she's, like, aware of that, the big reveal of, yes, like, all your fears are validated, they are dead, and that is confirmed now. Because it's like the hope is dashed. Any hope she could have had is, like, gone, right? So I do think that, like, she can't just be ready for it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, right? So I think to a degree she prepared for it, but it's not like she can just fully already be there. That doesn't make sense to me. So the question then is, like, how is she, like, when has she lost people before, right? Because if she has prior experience with losing people, then that would give her, like, a way to, like, mentally be prepared for this, as opposed to being like, this is a new thing, right? So thinking about that, it's like she almost lost Rudy with I gotta get my notes out, with the dragon guy. What the frick is his name? I forgot. Orsted. I remember. No, yeah, so she almost loses Rudy with Orsted, which caused her a lot of pain, right? That came out of nowhere, and she was like, oh no. That also is, like, what got her so much more connected to Rudy, and realized, like, oh, he could die, like, I need to be stronger for him, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that's, like, an instance of her not losing someone, but, like, being faced with the idea of losing someone, and that caused an intense reaction to her that caused her to, like, double down on Rudy and feel like she needs to go get stronger so she can protect him, right? So almost losing Rudy was a big deal, you know? I think we can all agree with that. And then the only other example I could think of, or I think this is, I mean, a lot of this is coming from the Discord, right? I'm not trying to claim everything as my own, but, like, bouncing ideas off of each other, right? Yeah. Was her brothers, right? Because we did know that, from Hilda, I think her name is, her mom, Eris's mom, that, like, the two brothers were, like, taken away, or maybe Philip said it. Either way, they're both dead. Who cares about them anymore? Rip Bozo. That's a joke. Is it? Yes, it is. Oh boy. But yeah, her brothers, right? I don't know what her relationship was like with her brothers, so how much of a loss is it? How early did that happen? I don't know, but that could be an example of her being, like, facing loss before. But we haven't seen anything from that, so it's, like, kind of hard to say. Just to throw out there. So, in that way, she's never, like, other than her brothers, which is kind of a maybe on how much, like, she was faced with that or was impacted by that, other than her brothers, she hasn't really had a loss before. She almost lost Rudy, which has been a big thing, but she hasn't had a permanent, oh, they're dead and they're not coming back. So in that way, it's like, okay, now that this has happened, I'm really worried about you because this is something new for you, right? And it just happened to you, so it's like we need to be ready for the ramifications of this emotionally, right? Yeah, that's where I'd be with that. I kind of already mentioned, but her usual temper problems, where it's just like she's always been very loud and proud about most of her emotions. I would say the only thing that, like, her parents, thinking about her parents, she's always been like, yeah, I'm ready for if they're dead. You know, like she said that before. Though I don't fully believe her when she says that. Like, I'm not just gonna believe a 14-year-old girl saying like, oh, I'm comfortable with my parents dying. Like, that's a lot. And if it's just, you know, like, and because I think she was 14 or 13 at the time. I don't know. I don't remember the exact timeline of when she said that, but now she's 15, and that's what we're dealing with now, right? So even 15 is like a 50, like, you know. But yeah, continuing. There's the question of how much she would be impacted by her parents specifically, because like we know she loved Saros, right? She said it before. That's her boy right there, Grandpa Saros. So losing Saros, you know, we're aware of that attachment. How much does she care about her parents, or did she care about her parents? You know, like, and care is a kind of a weird word to throw out, but like, how much would their death be a loss for her? I would assume rather substantially, given that they're her parents, you know, but maybe we'll pull up her POV and she'll be like, yeah, they were kind of bozos. Like, I don't know. So that's kind of a bit of a question for me, where I would think that she would be very impacted by losing them, but maybe she won't be, and maybe she's not. I mean, she seems kind of fine. That's why I'm focusing on this so much. Literally, do I have a comb in my pocket? Oh, okay. Yes, sir. No. Losing her parents, like, I would assume that she would be pretty impacted by that, right? So for her to, in episode 23, like, seem so content and seem so fine, like, either she is fine way more than I would expect, in which case, like, she's way different than I expected her to be, which would be a big deal for, like, the viewing of her character, or she's hiding it and it's like, okay, those issues are real, they're just something being undercover, and I'm like, okay, then that's something I can work with. I like that a lot. So that is important in that way. And then, yeah, the question of how mentally prepared could she have been, given that, oh, all of your family might be dead, 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl, get ready for it, you know? And she kind of reached that point on her own. So yeah, those are a couple, like, questions, little prods, these are mostly things to keep in mind going into this POV. This POV is going to be so important for me to, like, for me and my opinion of Eris, you know? And Eris as a character, and blah, 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 blah. It's going to be very, very important. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to mostly frame these as questions. Like, I'm throwing in a couple of thoughts, right? But a lot of these are questions that I think are just important to keep in mind. Yeah, and also, yeah, okay. There's also the side point, because now we're moving into the sex with Rudy. Well, okay, let's go with how does Eris mourn? That's a fun question. Which ties into the sex part, right? Because with the sex literally being the night of the reveal of her parents' death, it makes me think, oh, she is having sex as, like, a rebound to fill the void of having lost her entire family, right? And what's important about that is, I would say sex is a pretty big thing to add on to a relationship, especially one that up to this point had, like, no romance. They've never kissed before, they've never done anything, you know, that's like explicitly romantic. Like, there's been, like, little things or whatever, right? But to have sex, I would say, has been a big change in their relationship, Eris and Rudy, right? An example of that in character is Rudy literally wakes up and he's pogging, you know, he's like, hey, I'm Rudy, I'm a normie now, let me go check on my girlfriend, right? So, like, in that way, like, it was a big change in how he views his relationship with Eris because of the sex, right? And so, like, I would say, a big interpersonal change. Is now the time to have that interpersonal change happen? I would say no. I don't think the night of what was a big trauma is a time to throw a stone at interpersonal relationships that are keeping you afloat, you know? Like, in the sense that with the parents just having died, it's like, okay, we need to kind of make sure this is, like, a stable situation and that, like, you're good before we start complicating things even more. You know, like, complicating things even more doesn't seem like a good idea to me. So, like, and that's kind of part of the question of, like, why is she going to Rudy to have sex right after this, you know? Is it that it's just like, well, I just lost my whole family, and, like, because I was kind of, like, talking about that a bit, right, of, oh, perhaps this is a move to, like, lock down Rudy, you know, kind of a political thing of, like, let me get some, like, stability in my world, blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of trying to frame it as a independence thing of like but not even independence tied to Rudy, because that's different. But of like I am alone in this world. I need to become secure in myself and become like a political thing or like some sort of entity for myself to like regain my like foundation, right? But what I think we've seen from episode 23, Eris POV will probably clarify even more, is that it was like, okay, like I need to be strong for Rudy, right? It still goes back to Rudy. So it's like, I need to be not codependent on Rudy, but I need to be strong enough independently that like I can be attached to Rudy in like a better way. But it's still an attachment to Rudy, like where I thought it would be more of a retreat into herself. So that's different than what I expected, right? But yeah, okay, back to this question of like, how does Eris mourn? What I have written in the little side thing is filling void, ? Desperate for comfort, ? Because what my instinct would be is, okay, she's just lost a lot, and she is emotionally reeling. She's emotionally reeling, right? She is probably, because she comes into the tent. This is literally, think about this. This is crazy to me. This is literally the next time they've talked. The last time Eris and Rudy talked were, okay, it's just been revealed Eris's parents died like 10 seconds ago. Eris says, leave the tent. He leaves, and she's sobbing, right? So it's like, okay, give her space, but she's mentally unwell right now. Like, she is in a bad emotional spot right now. That makes me very worried about her, right? And I think Rudy would be very worried about her as well. That, like, obviously, right? Because, like, if she's sobbing in her tent alone, that's a lot to be happening for someone emotionally. And the next time we talk to her, she's like, hey, let's sleep together. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, we're just going to skip all of the like, your parents dying thing. Like, I feel like we need to deal with this before we start doing something else. Because it's like, instead of Rudy being like, yo, like, let me do what you did for me. Like, in the same way that right after Rudy had the argument with Paul, and Eris, like, came and hugged him and, like, patted him and just was like, I'm here for you kind of thing. That's what I would want Rudy to do. And he's had that happen with him. He's had that happen to him with Eris comforting him after the Paul thing. So it's like, Rudy, like, just be there for her. But you don't have to this is not the time to overcomplify. This is not the time to add crazy new things to your interpersonal relationship. Just be there for her, you know, kind of thing. Because I see this as her coming to Rudy, her, like, closest person. Ghislaine's also around, but, like, truly probably her closest love in person in this moment. And being like, I'm alone and I need to not feel alone right now. And her, because she's in this, like, extreme loss moment, she's like, I would assume, maybe this is where I'm wrong, I would assume that she's super emotionally and mentally reeling. So she jumps to the extreme of sex, the most, like, extreme way to connect with somebody, especially for two people that are virgins, right? Like, that is also goes into the idea of how they consider sex. But I would imagine that both of them are like, okay, sex is probably the closest we can get together. So because she's so at a loss, she jumps to the most extreme to, like, you know, just to compensate. And that is like a desperation for comfort that then I feel like Rudy could be taking advantage of, or not properly, like, considering, if you want to just say that doesn't realize because he's dumb or whatever, which I'll get to that in a second. Don't go, oh, I'll get to it, calm down. Or don't calm down, hey, you can leave a hate comment, that's extra algorithm points for me, easy clap, we stay winning, no, but, like, yeah, it's like, that's what my instinct would be, is like, she is in desperate need of comfort because she just lost all this stuff, and she hasn't talked to you about it yet. She hasn't talked to anyone about it yet, right? So, yeah, that's how I read her proposal for sex. That it was like, I need comfort right now. And so, instead of comforting her in a way that's, like, good, he went along with it. After, he did try to refuse a little bit, but so we'll get to that in a minute. But that's how I read it instinctually, and what I would imagine the case would be, and what seems to be, like, the most realistic case to me. That's, like, what makes the most sense. So Eris POV is probably going to be way different. That's what the impression I'm starting to get, is that Eris is just going to be like, no, I just kind of wanted to have sex. It's like, Eris, like, what is going on in your brain? I don't know. I'm excited to get into her headspace, because that'll be interesting. And maybe that'll cause a very drastic shift in my perception of Eris, which maybe will lead to Eris stocks rising or falling. We will see. But yeah, then the question of how does sex with Rudy relate to the mourning process? Because then that's, like, the thing of, like, okay, let's say they have sex. How bad is that? Like, how harmful really is it to have sex in this instance, aside from the normal like moral concerns of the 15, because that's a bunch of stuff. But like in context to the trauma, in context to just losing your parents, in context to all this kind of thing, how bad would it be to be comforted in this kind of way? For two people that this is their first experience with sex, and honestly with like anything sexual to this, like near to this degree, it's not like they've been like, you know, like it's not like they've been doing minor sexual things and they made the big jump. Like it's not like a normal relationship that now you're finally making the final step. Like they're jumping over a lot of hoops. They're going straight here, right? And it's not like you need to jump through the hoops first, like whatever. But like for two people who are virgins, who haven't had much sexual experience, to jump here, I think, is a pretty big deal for them, right? Even if sex itself isn't that big of a deal, which is up to you and your own personal, like, blah, blah, blah biases of sex. But at least for them, I feel like it would be a big deal for the two of them. Especially for Rudy. Like, it's a huge deal for Rudy. That's non-negotiable, okay? Literally, sex is, like, the biggest theme and biggest thing in the show that constantly is happening and being talked about. Because Rudy's our main character, and the guy, like, a very large part of his character is this whole, like, is the whole sexual part, you know? So, it's a big deal. It is a big deal. So, like, how harmful is it to make this step now? For Rudy, it ended up being very harmful, right? Like, it caused him to sink into, like, regress into, like, his depression. Because it was, he has sex in this moment with her, and that causes him to make a bunch of assumptions about the relationship that then the next morning gets revealed to him, oh, it ain't like that at all. And then that causes him to go down a huge mental, right? Because he's like, oh, my girlfriend, right? Like, he makes a bunch of assumptions off of that. Whereas if he didn't do that, and he just, like, comforted her more in a more typical way, like the way she comforted him, then I don't think those assumptions would be nearly as strong. And while, like, her leaving would still be a pretty big loss and would probably cause, like, a lot of pain for Rudy, I think it wouldn't be nearly I don't think it would be as extreme, right? Like, I don't think he would be hurt as much by it if they didn't just have sex, the thing that he's been building to the entire time as, like, now she's my like, that's what makes him think now she's my girlfriend, you know? So at least for Rudy, it was, I would say, very harmful, because of the results of, like, she was unstable when she came into this. She was obviously unstable because she did something that was very different. And, well, like, okay, maybe unstable is not the right word. Things were definitely, a lot of pieces were moving around, like, because I think I was saying earlier of, like, having sex is a big thing to throw at an interpersonal relationship, especially in this moment of, like, a lot of change and trauma. For now, for us to do it right now, it's like, for her to leave, at this point, it's like, oh, like, who could have guessed what would happen? Like, things are so crazy right now that to make this big step in a relationship, it's like, well, no, like, she left, like, who knows what she would have done? This is why we shouldn't have had sex, Rudy, because that is making you have this extra attachment to her, and you have no idea where she's at or what's going through her head, because instead of taking the time to communicate anything, right, instead of, like, being like, yo, let's talk about what just happened, or anything like that, we just went with this big change and then didn't talk about it. They didn't even have any pillow talk, or if they did, it was cut out. I didn't see any pillow talk. They bang and they go to sleep? We want to talk about what just happened? Like, we didn't talk about anything. So when she leaves, it's like, no wonder he's, like, of course he's going to be completely blindsided and hurt by that, but he was blindsided and hurt about that largely because instead of actually dealing with the situation, we avoided it with sex. Right? And so, at least for Rudy, it's super painful. I don't know if it's bad for Eris or not at this point. Well, I mean, it's bad in the sense that I don't think this was, like, healthy for her, but I don't know if she thinks it's bad or not, right? Like, I don't know her mental opinion of, like, of how this, or I don't know if she'll regret this in the future. I don't think she'll regret it in the short term at all, because she's the one that went for it so much. But, like, in the long term, is she going to regret this? Like, is this going to have some sort of ramifications down the line for her character that are negative? I don't know, because, like, all that I'm really seeing is positive change of, like, let's go become stronger and more independent from Rudy, which, honestly, so many characters are constantly attached to Rudy and base themselves off of Rudy that anyone that goes, let me try to be a bit more independent, I'm already, like, on your side. Because, like, everyone is so dependent, like, so many people are, like, on the Rudy train. It's like, okay, let's become individuals a bit more. Like, you can still love Rudy, sure, but, like, let's also make sure we're good, you know? So, like, yeah, give me some, I don't know. Give me something, give me some drama, give me some change or something. Like, even more. Just give me more, I don't know. Okay, continuing. So the next question on the docket is Rudy able to realize this potential harm? I would say there's a harm there. I would say the harm there is that in the whole, with all the stuff I just talked about with the sex, I think the potential harm of sex is very, very painfully visible. from my perspective at least, to the point of like, it's just a massive red flag. Like the way I see it, and I'm very intentionally using I language because the question is Rudy able to? So we'll get to the Rudy part in a second. But for the I part, as soon as she walks in the door, and the last time I talked to her, she made me leave and then weeped about her parents' death. The next time she walks in the door, I'm thinking, okay, she's still very, like, there are still a lot of things that need to be worked out. Like, we're still in a super unstable situation. Like, all of my guard is up, right? As soon as she walks in the door. So, and it's just a massive red flag, right? And then the sex is like immediately, it's like, oh, okay, like, you're desperate for comfort. Like, that's just the instinctual, like, and those are, like, a lot of red flags for me, right? The question of, is Rudy able to realize this potential harm? At this point, Rudy is like there comes a point that's like the amount of times that we pull out the like emotionally stunted thing. Like, I don't know how much I can follow this, you know? Like, if he's, because it's like, is he able to realize, it's just crazy because it's so flaring in my face obvious for me that it's hard for me to think like, oh, Rudy, but for Rudy, he doesn't see it, you know? Especially because he denies the request at first, right? She comes in, let me look at my notes for this section. She comes in, yeah, Rudy, blah, 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 is now the time to have this change. Rudy realized, question mark. Yeah, okay. Haha, I'm so glad I sat down and wrote a full page and 2 pages of notes. Good stuff. Okay. Clutch. Rudy realized, question mark. He initially resists, right? She comes in, he's like, what about our promise, you know? So, for some reason, and there's a couple different reasons that could be the case, for some reasons, he's like, no, this isn't a good idea right now. The one reason could just straight up be he's nervous, right? He's obviously has a lot of expectations for this event, and for it to actually be unfolding in front of him, it's like, oh my goodness, like, this is a lot, and he's not ready for it, kind of thing. Like, I could see it being like a nervous, like, thing in that way. But I would also hope that he realizes, like, this is a crazy situation. I don't know if now's the time for this, you know? But does he think that? I would hope so. I don't think it would be, like, out of character for him to think that. I would think that would even be character growth somewhat because of all, like, we've had a lot of experiences in the last long while. You've had a lot of time to think about. I mean, literally, like, I haven't been reading the light novel, of course, but, like, the little light novel chunks that I've seen is, like, he wrestles with a lot of these thoughts in his mind, right? He's wrestling with, I don't know, I feel like the section I read, or like early on, he like all the self-hatred, like I think a lot of the self-hatred comes from a lot of this, right? So it is something that he thinks about, you know? So I would hope that he would have some sort of growth, because this is just such a, yeah, like, okay, continuing. I don't know, I'm getting stun-locked on that point, or on that idea. Okay. Rudy realized, question mark, has been comforted non-sexually by Eris before in the Paul argument. Would have been good to do that now. So I think, because like he's had conversations with people about tough topics before, right? The entire Paul breakdown, you know, we had our huge meltdown, but then we came back and we talked about it, and then it was like, you know, he was there for Paul. They had their good father-son hug, blah blah blah. So he's dealt with complicated and difficult emotional situations a couple times in the show, and it's been a big deal, and it's big growth for him, right? And we've really appreciated that. After the Paul, like during the Paul argument era, when Eris comforted him, that to me is like a perfect thing that he should have done here, you know? Because it's something that's happened to him, so it's not like it's something he could never conceive of, right? Where it's like, I'm in a very painful spot emotionally because of parental issues and trauma, and she was here for me in a way that didn't jump to anything crazy, but was just like a very like, I'm here for you, that's the focus. So for him, if he just flipped it, right, and just went, okay, she's in a very difficult emotional situation that has to do with parents, I was in one of those a little bit ago, let me just be there for her, you know, kind of thing. And it's not like it would have been a really easy talk to have, right? Because you can go forehead, like, oh, forehead, just become a genius and emotional genius forehead. Like, yeah, I mean, I can see why it'd be a little difficult considering that she's coming in saying, like, well, let's sleep together, right? But to just say, like, you could still talk her down without just shutting the door on her face, you know? Just any communication. Because I'm almost gonna pull up the scene again. But it's like we spend like a minute or two talking and then just jump into it, right? Which is mostly him going like, I'm not sure. But we don't really talk about what happened at all. Like, just can we have a little bit of talking, man, before we have sex? But yeah, okay. And then my next note is is an idiot, underdeveloped, blah blah blah, which is basically just the idea of like, oh, like Rudy, he just doesn't know how to do this. I just, can we learn? This is like, the show's about change. Can we just get better at this stuff, Rudy? Like, imagine if he denied it and then was like, and then had a moment of, let's just talk to her about it, you know? That would have been, like, I would have been so locked in for that, man. Of just Rudy being like, here, like, this is coming to him on a silver platter, right? She is here, and she wants it, and no one's telling her to want this. This isn't being orchestrated by Philip or anything. But, so if Rudy went, you know what? Maybe it's not about the sex. Maybe for just this one moment, we can stop being a lusty little lagoon, right? And let's just be there for her because I care about her as a person, and she's done that for me before, right? Because I don't think that would be out of character, you know? I think that would, like, it would be a growth. It would be like a result of his change, or like a showing of like a good internal change. But for him to just not at all and make like try to refuse, which kind of shows that he doesn't know how he feels about this, and then he doesn't commit because she pushes it about like, let's have kittens, which, like, that's the line that makes you crumple, Rudy, do yeah, I don't know. This is like, I think that's my biggest issue with Rudy, and what is causing me the most issue with Rudy is causing me the most issue with Rudy. Okay, can we not just repeat ourselves? Let's maybe lock it a bit. Okay, thank you. That he just makes a lot of decisions that are very bad move, to the point of it's like so painfully a bad move to me that it's like, I don't know if I can keep extending the olive branch that he truly is this, like, bad. That he truly is that, but making that mistake. And because it seems so obvious. And, like, it's not even just the sex stuff, right? It's like the freaking scene with Orsted. It's just, I'm watching the scene with, and I'm sure the comments will get into that, so we'll later talk about that later. But the scene with Orsted, I'm like screaming, just like, Rudy, it's a horrible move. Do not talk to this guy. Ruijerd is pissing himself. Ruijerd, there is liquid piss going down his leg. I'm exaggerating, of course, but Ruijerd is terrified right now. Have you ever seen him that scared before? So maybe listen to him. Remember we had that talk when you got the tough kid killed, that eagle kid, and we had that talk where it was like, Ruijerd was like, dog, like, what was that? Stop doing everything on your own. Like, and it was like a talk about, like, let's become more of a group, right? It was like, okay, I'm ready to see the result of that, where Ruijerd, the person that's part of your group, who previously we had that entire like tough mini arc about like, yo, let's become more of a group in thinking instead of Rudy talking on his own. Instead of doing any of that, Rudy starts talking on his own about stuff he hasn't brought up to the group before, you know, to a guy that they're terrified of, and it turns out for very, very good reason. And, like, obviously it's for good reason. The bull has just thrown itself off of a cliff, Rudy. We're just gonna ignore that bull just killed itself? That's, you know what I mean? So it's like, Rudy, listen, like, we've talked about this before. It's not like this is done out of, like, pure naivete, right? Like, we've had an arc about becoming more of a group unit, so can we actually listen to our teammates instead of getting everyone killed? So in that way, it's like, Rudy, that's just, it seems like a horrible move, and it's something that he could have, like, I feel like we've talked about and could have found a way out of, and so I just kind of have to accept, like, nah, he just fumbled it that much. Like, he didn't make any calls about, like, Man God being, like, a bad idea to bring up to really scary people, which is, like, you know, obviously I've been paranoid about Man God the entire time, so, and he hasn't been that much, but, like, Rudy, like, it's just, you're making assumptions and you're getting yourself killed for it. So, and it's just to the point of, like I'm kind of at a, like, it's kind of like I'll live and let live because no one died. Like, if Ruijerd died, I would be holding that over Rudy for the rest of, I would be holding that over the Rudy so hard. But just because, like, oh, nobody dies except, like, Rudy dies and then he's brought back. So, like, lasting consequence-wise, all we have is some trauma, right? Which really isn't that bad when we really get down to the brass tacks. Like, I'm fine with some trauma. I can deal with that, you know? Like, we can make that work. So, like, there's not much of a consequence, so it's like, whatever. And I say not much of a consequence, everyone's freaking out because it's like, oh, but Rudy's having nightmares. This is, like, a large part of why Eris connects to him so much more, which leads to them having sex, which is a big deal. And then so for Eris to leave, blah, 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 it's like a big point of their relationship, and this causes Eris to want to become even more stronger, I hear you. But compared to, like, Ruijerd dying, it's like, okay, we can deal with that. So, I'm able to, to some degree, I'm just like, I roll my shoulders and go like, Rudy, I think it was a bad move. I think you honestly could have done better, right? Like that, I'm honestly, like, I'm disappointed in you, Rudy, and it's not just because you're dumb and like, I think it's like a growth moment, but it's like, I think you just failed something that you could have succeeded in if you weren't being stupid, and I think you shouldn't be that stupid, right? At this point, it's like, come on, Rudy, like, this is a show about change. Let's show some change here, you know? But it's also a show about not changing and failing and then picking yourself back up, you know, so I guess. So it's like a repeat of that kind of thing, where it's like, Rudy, like, yeah, where it's like, Rudy, like, this seems like such a bad idea to me. And he gets bit for it, right? Rudy gets bit for this, for the sex. Now we're moving to the sex. Rudy, this seems like such a bad idea to me. And I feel like to you, you should be able to recognize to some degree that this is a bad idea. So for you to fail and to, because it's really comes down to this next thing of how much do we judge Rudy for not realizing / ignoring the potential harm in favor of sex. It comes down to in favor of sex of like, he's wanted this to for like in a deep like, you know, or like, I don't know, sex drive. Like he's like, to some degree has wanted to do this for a long time. So in favor of being there for Eris and comforting her, in favor of any of that, he goes to the sex. And it's almost like the scene after where he wakes up, right? He wakes up and instead of he's immediately like, my girlfriend, ooh, where is she? Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's in such happy spirits. He's not even considering that she might not be in happy spirits, because I don't know, yesterday her parents were revealed to be dead and Saros. You know, so it's like, instead of even thinking about Eris, he's just pogging his pants off about the whole, what happened. It's like, no, think about Eris a little bit, man. That's what's like, that's what kind of bothers me. Because on some degree, like, he's having sex with her because he does truly care about her and love her, right? And she does to him. That doesn't mean it's appropriate for, like, a 15-year-old and a 30-year-old or whatever. Like, I'm not even trying to get into the last point a lot, but that's just, it's something to keep in mind. Because we talked about that before, and I just don't want to deal with that right now. So it's not even about, or, like, yeah, like, they love each other, sure, but, like, in this moment, like, we're ignoring all the, it seems like we're not dealing with, like, he's not even considering all this trauma that just happened at all, in favor of, with the sex. Because, yeah, and that gets into this next thing. Let's see. Rudy realizes, like, let me make sure I hit all my points. Yeah, judge Rudy, should we judge Rudy, question mark. He failed to resist, so he attempted to resist, but he failed, right? The attempt shows that to some degree he was considering to not do it, right? It's not like things like spiraled out of control. Like, he was trying to pump the brakes, but then he chose to let it happen, right? So that shows intent on his part, blah, blah, blah. The next point of take advantage of girl in mourning, question mark, from his perspective. That's the key. Because is she in a mourning is something that I don't even know anymore, because I don't know if she's just like Giga Chad built different, which would make me kind of like lose some interest in her character, because it's just like, oh, her parents die and she just walks it off. Like, that would be a little annoying to me. We'll see her POV. Well, you know. So from his perspective though, because he doesn't necessarily know how she'll respond to this trauma, right? Because I don't know why he wouldn't have any idea how she would respond to this trauma to the degree of being able to make a big decision like immediately day of. It's not even necessarily even day of. That's the crazy part. It's the next conversation they have is sex. So from his perspective, can I be like, Rudy, you should have known better to do something, considering that this is the next time you've talked to her? I feel like that's so obvious that I don't think I can just give him the olive branch and say like, no, like he just didn't, you know, this is the next time he talked to her. Like, I don't know if I can give him that olive branch, because I've been giving him a lot of olive branches, and that doesn't, like, it's like I'm getting to this point, like, I'm trying to find a way to stay invested in the story, right? And it's crazy because it's becoming something that I'm having to do like a little actively, right? It's an active process of like, okay, let's shift gears so I can stay invested and keep having a good time with this, right? Where it's like, man, like, Rudy, maybe I should focus, like, maybe I should just ride the wave of this guy's just gonna keep making mistakes, and I'm gonna, like, instead of just getting mad about it every time, it's just like, he's gonna keep effing everything up, and that's like, he'll hopefully eventually grow out of it. But instead of like putting so many eggs in the getting over, like, growing out of it basket. It's just like, let's just watch him flounder and fail and just see the process of his change, you know, see all the pitfalls and him landing in pitfalls that seem so painfully obvious that I almost want to scream at him sometimes. But it's like, you know what, instead of even caring him enough to scream at him, I'm just going to watch him climb out of the pitfall and be like, Rudy, I'm just going to watch your progress. Like, I'm going to stop trying to even do anything with you, you know? And I'm just, like, it's like I'm pulling myself away from Rudy a bit so I can just watch his journey instead of, like, screaming at him, right? Which I guess I could do, but it's like, that's, like, that requires a pulling away, which is, like, I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll see. That's kind of what I've been thinking recently, so, and then there's the point of Judge Rudy of sex with minor / second cousins. Those are 2 points. There are second cousins. Usually incest is not very happy, you know, like in the modern world, which he comes from, so we hold him to modern world standards in a lot of ways, right? It's not like he can, like, his moral system fully adapts. We've talked about that before, you know? So I still hold him to more, like, the modern day standards, mostly. Like, there's some things that, like, it's almost like a 90% thing where it's like, I can see a little bit of, like, a temper back just because of the reality of things. Like, people are gonna die, so being a pacifist is, like, really hard to do in this world. But when it comes to something like, there's a reason that that people socially don't find, like, any sort of incestuous behavior okay, as well as, like, sex with people underage okay, right? So I'm holding him to that stuff. So, like, the whole normal stuff of, I don't think the 15-year-old girl, because, like, dude, 15-year-old girl comes in, says, hey, I want sex. After this trauma, I don't trust that she is in a position that she knows what she, like, wants that well, right? I don't trust that when faced with a loss that she hasn't faced before, right? When faced with something that even if she thought she was preparing for, like, I don't trust that she's necessarily prepared for it enough that she can just walk that off without talking about someone, or talking to someone about it. Like, I just don't trust that she, as a 15-year-old girl who's never faced this kind of extreme loss before, almost faced it with Rudy, kind of faced it with Rudy, but that was a big deal for her, so it's like that's happening again, right? That was a big deal. I don't just trust her when she comes in and says, like, yeah, let me have sex. Like, I am in a position where I can give happy, good consent, you know? On top of the normal, like, 15-year-old girl stuff, right? Yeah. And, yeah. Second cousins, blah, 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 blah. Is that all let me flip on my back of my notes. There's some other questions of, like, another point of, like, this is a more general story point of everything comes back to Rudy, side characters dependent on Rudy. So the point, the idea there, goodbye, my board, is so many of the characters in the show talk about, like, are, like, locked into Rudy, right? Like, Lilia, Rudy, my love, I'm gonna have my firstborn, you know? Roxy, Rudy, my apprentice, I will go and devote many years of my life to, like, help you and your family, you know? Zenova, Rudy, my figurine master, blah, blah, blah. Sophie, Rudy, the person I most respect. Eris, Rudy, the person I most love. Like, I feel like it's like we have, like, I almost want to draw something, bro. I'm gonna draw this really quick, and I'm not even gonna cut this out, okay? We are drawing this live. Give me, I got a D&D player's handbook here that I'm gonna use as a cover. It's like this, ready? Rudy, bing, 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 bing. Boom, 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 boom. Eris, Paul, Zenith, Lilia, freaking Roxy. One more, for Sophie. Right? It feels like this is kind of the impression I get. Bro, can you even see it? I don't want to change my settings. You see that? Where it all comes back to Rudy in the middle. And there's a little bit of, like, connection of, like, oh, I don't know. Zenith and Paul have a bit of a connection. Lily and Paul have a bit of a connection. Yeah, Sophie maybe has a bit of a connection with the family, but it doesn't even seem that strong because, like, nobody brings her up. Like, I don't even know how strong that connection is, so we don't really see that. Or, like, Roxy with, like, a part of the family, right? Where it's like, yeah, there's some webs that, like, go to other places or whatever, but I feel like more than I've seen in, like, I think it almost feels too connected to Rudy for me, right? It feels too connected to Rudy. Where, like, I would prefer, I think, a story where the independent characters have more, like, important relationships with each other, right? Where it's like, okay, like, I don't know, Eris to Ghislaine. Like, give me some, like, Eris to Ghislaine stuff that just doesn't have to do with Rudy. Like, I feel like every conversation we see that Rudy's not in, most of the time it's about Rudy in some way, right? And that could be, to put an olive branch out, that could be a result of he's our main character. Maybe we're cutting content out that is a lot of conversations with other people, or like with other people that aren't like exactly going back to Rudy. But it's like it's almost like a main character syndrome where it's like, or like a harem kind of thing where it's like everything either has to do with Rudy in the present moment, or if we're away from Rudy, it has to still do with Rudy and blah blah blah. And that to me is just like, I don't know, I would want it to be a bit more natural where like there's other drama and business going on that doesn't have to do with Rudy that explicitly, such as Eris just lost her entire family. That doesn't have to do with Rudy, but then immediately, instead of dealing with that, it's like we have sex with Rudy and then walk away and then start talking about like getting stronger for Rudy's sake. Like, what about your parents? Like, I want to see you, and invest with your parents. And if you just saw my knee, it's because guess what? I'm not wearing suit pants. I'm wearing shorts. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all a facade. I can't even show you my shorts. There it is. I'm wearing shorts, man. Because it's hot in this room, bro. Like, oh my, I'm taking this off. We're changing. I'm literally sweating. There's sweat gathering on my chair, bro. This is disgusting. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna, can I just hang this? We're gonna hang my suit. Perfect. But it's like, I want people to be more developed outside of connecting to Rudy, because I think that would make them more fleshed out and have more depth, right? And it's like we have an opportunity for that with Eris losing her family, where it's like, okay, give me some Eris drama, some Eris motivation for her actions that has to do with losing her family, such as, oh, let me do something with like my that political stuff I was yapping about after episode 22, where it's like, yeah, like maybe she's getting motivated from losing her family to become like an independent woman, blah blah blah. And maybe she's like making a gonna go become like some sort of political thing. I don't know, carry on her family name or something. But like I was ready for her to have change that doesn't have to do with Rudy, but has to do with having lost her entire family, and now it's like, I'm alone. But instead of that, I'm alone. Okay, let's just focus entirely back on Rudy. Like, I'm gonna become stronger for Rudy. I'm gonna do everything for Rudy. It's like, yeah, like, I can see why you would, I guess, where it's like, yeah, you love him, and he's all you got, but it almost feels like we're ignoring all the potential crazy ramifications of the parents dying in favor of, but Rudy's our main character, and it's about Rudy, and, like, let's have sex with him, Yeah, like I don't know. I want more not connected to Rudy stuff. I feel like, because so much connects to, like, so many of the characters are so locked into Rudy, and so I want them to have more depth outside of that, I guess. And maybe it's a cut content thing. I just lost my papers. Maybe it's just like that's not where the story's taking it, and so to want that or to desire that is just like, well, it's not going there, so get over it. That could be the case too. In which case, it is what it is. Like, let's focus on Rudy more. That's just something I'd prefer. Maybe that's more of a personal thing, but it just, yeah. Yeah, and then there's the questions of why are we telling this story, why all the sex, and the higher bar of works on sensitive topics, which just goes to the thing of, like, and I've talked about this before. I've talked about this at the beginning of the show. It's my biggest worry of, like, if we're going to go into these sensitive topics, if we're going to talk about, like, pedophilia, sex with people that are in potential mourning, like all this crazy trauma stuff, the ramifications of losing parents, the ramifications of all these things, dealing with a person that I think has that reflects a lot of real life people, like the incel type crowd or the neat crowd or whatever, like I'm talking about Rudy and past life Rudy there. If we're going to deal with a lot of these like sensitive topics, especially when it goes into like sexual violence or whatever, then, which this doesn't go into sexual violence, but this goes into like sexual controversial topics, then to even broach the topic, to even bring up those like themes or ideas increases how good your piece of media has to be for me by like a substantial percent or a substantial amount, right? Because if you're gonna go here, then you really gotta ace it, or guess what? It's gonna look like you're just kind of throwing this idea out here because it's like edgy or because it's a fetishy thing or because of who knows what. But like to even go here requires so much more nuance and like maturity in the story, like in the telling of the story for me to consider it good, right? So it's kind of like, I feel like the bar, I'm starting to hit that bar a little bit when I'm not sure like where MT crosses the line. And so much of that is going to have to do with the ramifications of everything we just saw, right? So much of it's going to do with what's Rudy like after getting this reveal that, oh dang, like all this build up for sex, and I had it, and then everything went horribly wrong, and like who even cares about it anymore? Like I lost Eris, so like the sex didn't even matter. Like if Rudy has some crazy, incredibly compelling, like I'm here for a growth, then that's going to like increase. That's gonna increase the, I'm gonna be so here for that. But I'd also want to see that with Eris and the trauma with the parents, right? Instead of it just being like, well, I lost him, saw this coming, let me just bang Rudy and then go dip and go train. Like, no, like give me some Eris drama, give me some action there. Like she's basically a side main character. She's been like such a huge part of the story for so long. We can't just like she deserves some good drama and some good like breakdown into her situation, man. So yeah, we'll see what's happening there. That's more of like a lot of that is going to have to do with how the story continues to deal with like the ramifications of the sex and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to something I feel like we can judge right this moment. Because like, let's see how they play with it before I start bringing hammers down. Because I'm still here for it, like, or I don't know about here for it, but I'm still willing to hear them out. Like I'm still ready for more talk, more action, more work to be done, more prodding of the themes. Like I'm not just shutting the plate or like shutting the factory down, but it's definitely got me like I feel like some of my worries have been somewhat realized, but we'll see where it goes, so I'm not fully committed yet. It's like maybe in the same way that Rudy is taking steps forward and sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back, maybe these are my steps back. Who knows? What if I'm the main, or what if I was about to try to say something crazy of like, this is my story of blah, 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 but that's weird to even say, so don't worry about it. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, maybe we'll step back, but maybe we'll have one step back, two steps forward, I don't know. We'll see. Or it's like necessarily the show will like kind of like get me super discombobulated and thinking about a lot of themes, and then it like hits me with some really compelling, interesting stuff. Then it's like, okay, I can work with that. Like at that point, it almost makes up for, or even like completely makes okay that you discombobulated me and like and completely threw me off. If you can then throw me off so much and then lead me somewhere really cool and productive and interesting, then it's like, okay, I'm down. But that is all requiring that I get led somewhere that's interesting and they don't drop the ball in that department, which is why raise the bar, right? That's why I raise the bar and works on sensitive topics, because sensitive topics have a habit of discombobulating. And then my last thing that I wrote is, if you are gonna do this, then commit, give me drama and change, right? Especially for Eris. Because Rudy, it's a given. We're already seeing it with Rudy, but I don't know. If I'm gonna, I might, Eris, I might kind of, I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go with Eris's character. We might have some crazy character arcs here. And character arc in terms of perception of Eris. We'll see. Okay, so that was about an hour of me just screaming. What's next? Eris POV. Yeah, Eris POV's next, and then we do comments, and then we do tier list. Let me take a sip of the Dr. Pepper as I get it pulled up. How do I want to do this? I just have a big text document. Maybe I do it like here, and then I'll make it like the same size of the comments, like right this. Okay. All right. You see it? Boom. It's on the screen. I'm going to do a full scroll. If you want to just read it yourself, I'm going to just scroll to the bottom. You can pause, do your thing. Top G. I haven't read this yet. Good. Back to the top. And now, I'm going to read this. I'm not gonna just say it all out loud. I'm gonna read it silently. If I have any like big reactions or big thoughts that I say mid-read, I'm gonna show that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna cut it out. So basically, here's a big cut moment. We're gonna cut this part out, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. This is so effed up, dude. Okay, I'm already gonna take a moment. I'm out here just sipping. I'm literally sipping Dr. Pepper, having a good time just reading this thing. This is why. This is so bad. This is so sad. She's like. A 10, what, 10? Is she 10 here? I think I just read that she was 10. Yeah, that's right. His 10th birthday, so she was 12, I think. When, like, Helda was like, yo, go bang the kid. I know, I'm being a bit, like, but, where it's like, she goes to him, and she starts having these, like, self-worth thoughts of, like, maybe he doesn't actually love me, and when she feels like she's just a reward given to him by her father, and this is getting her all scared, and then she gets like scared and like almost like scared of like regret of like, did I just F everything up? Maybe I just wasted my last chance. Like these are like, for a 12-year-old girl, like this is so sad and horrible. My mother told me that no one but Rudius would have me, and I was sure she was right. So, like, she's thinking that, like, she's, like, unlovable by anyone but Rudius, and she just ruined her, like, her only chance of love with Rudius. Like, that is so unhealthy, like, having her worth as a woman completely tied to, like, the one person, and she feels like she effed it all up. Like, I feel like this is exactly why it's not okay for a 12-year-old girl to be doing this, because she has no idea. Like, this is complicated and weird and awkward and difficult and interpersonal and emotional and just complicated. And so being a 12-year-old, it's like you're not ready for any of that to be happening, right? Especially if it's like you're being told to do it by your family, and there's like all these other expectations, like with what she's doing here. Because it's like especially with all of these, like, with her perceptions of it being so crazy with her mother, right? Like, that's what is making it such an extreme situation. Yeah, that just makes me so sad for her. Like, and this is why 3 years later, when it's happening again, it makes me worried, like even if she's not a reward, if she's not being, like, because, like, think about it here. If she didn't feel like, when I realized that I wasn't okay with it anymore, right? So she was okay with it for, like, a moment. I think what made her not okay with it in that moment was that she felt like she was a reward. She felt like it wasn't genuine. She felt like I didn't get the sense he cared about my feelings. I was just a reward. And then I wasn't okay with it anymore. Like, that's when I feel like that's when it clicked for her. It's like, I'm, like, it's not real. Like, it's just a reward kind of thing. Like, I'm not actually being loved in this instance. But that kind of makes it seem to me that, like, okay, if she didn't feel that way, if perhaps, like, she wasn't being given as a reward, and we didn't have all this expectation, and it was more, and it was like Rudy was like, hey, I love you, and, like, actually was able to convince her and, like, had sex, like, she would have gone with it as a 12-year-old, because I think she would have felt like, because it's the question of, like, what does she feel, right? Like, she's not okay with it because she feels like a reward, right? So if she didn't feel like a reward and she felt like it was genuine love, then I think she would have been okay with it even when she was 12, right? But like, a 12-year-old doing this because it's like, oh, we're in love, blah, blah, blah. It's like, girl, you're 12. You have no idea what's going on. You're 12 years old. Like, your interpersonal and emotional skills are, like, not sharp enough for, like, to understand what's going on, And especially when you have Rudy, who, mentally 500 million years old, or, like, mentally 40 or whatever, and, like, all that kind of stuff going on, then it seems to look extremely predatory, right? But he wasn't doing that in this instance, right? Because he wasn't accepting the reward. What exactly? She punched him. I don't remember exactly, because she was kind of starting to go for it, and then she punched him because it got all weird, and yeah. But if he had, like, you know what I mean? You kind of get what I'm going for there? That's not even, like, anything that I think I'm just trying to use as an example of, like, even if she didn't feel like a reward, then I think she would have been okay with it when she was 12. And I think it's even more, like, agreeable with you and me and everyone here, right? That a 12-year-old girl truly, like, doesn't know how to do this. I mean, she's had no connections with anybody. I mean, it's like, dude, like, sex isn't a big deal, but guess what? You can have kids if you have sex. So it kind of is, like, and I'm saying sex isn't a big deal. I'm putting that in quotes from, like, what other people have said, right? That's not, let me be clear. Like, to say that sex isn't a big deal, it's like, okay, like, sure, whatever, like, you can have that opinion, but guess what? Like, you can still have a kid. So if she wasn't given as a reward, and she felt like it was real, and she felt like it was genuine, and she was convinced it was genuine, perhaps by Rudy, and then she had sex, it's like, I think that's really worrying for, like, her development, and, like, now she feels, like, so attached to him, and then, like, blah, 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 those extreme of emotions for, like, a 12-year-old girl, on top of, guess what? That can give you a child, and it's like, okay, like, 12-year-old girl become pregnant, like, what? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like, I think she could have been fine with it as a 12-year-old, which is, I think, very worrying, and makes it so that when she's a 15-year-old, her being fine with it doesn't mean that, like, necessarily she's, like, she could have been fine with it and she was 12 too, which makes me worried. That's as far as I got before I feel like I had to say something, so I'm gonna keep reading, basically. Interesting. Okay, keep going. Take a sip. Hey, you can have a sip first before the cut. Okay, I'll get to you in a second. Like, dude, I got one more paragraph. Like, look at this. This is crazy to me. Like, right here. That didn't work with Rudius. I honestly felt with every fiber of my being that when my mom said Rudius was the only one, she was right. If he hated me, then I thought I'd spend my entire life alone. She's, like, taking Rudy's sexual assaults on her as proof that he's the only one that will love her. That's so sad. That's so sad. That makes me, that like is so painful, right? That she thinks that like, oh, I will be alone. Rudy's the only one because he truly feels this way about me because he keeps molesting me. And even if I try to drive him away, it doesn't work, and then when my mom said that he's the only one, and so it's like, he's the only one, like, yeah. And who cares if I'm a reward? I thought at least we could be together, so I returned to his room. But yeah, let's keep going, let's keep going. Oh, when Rudy saw me enough with the ground and sprawled out like a frog, he apologized saying he was learning wrong. In response, I just looked down at him and told him to wait 5 more years. At the time, I thought that would be enough. Rudy was enough of an adult to wait for me. That's when I started to fall in love with him. Okay, let's see. Wow. Read this again, right? I should have let Rudius do what he wanted. Because this is when she was 12. This is right when she got teleported. She immediately is confronted with Ruijerd, and she's like, oh, I'm being punished. I should have let Rudius do what he wanted that night. We could save serious sex for when he turned 50. I should have just endured it and let him have his way that night until he was satisfied. No, you shouldn't have. Eris, no. Eris, I don't want you to feel this way. This is like proof of like how bad it is, how bad the situation is, you know? That she feels this way. This is like, you know? That's like, no, you shouldn't just let him do whatever he wants with you when you're a 12-year-old girl if you're not comfortable with it. Like, that's what she's thinking because of, like, that just, dude, it's such a mess. And then Rudius comes in clutch and then saves her, right, with Ruijerd, and then she like falls in love or whatever. But it's just like, it's all this kind of stuff that like came from like back then before, that I feel like is like such a showing that like she's not ready, man. Right? If she's thinking that she should endure something she doesn't want and to make someone satisfied because the demon that's appearing is gonna punish her for like resisting, it's like, no, like boundaries are good. Like, you did a good thing. I don't want you doubting what you did like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let me actually read a substantial amount of this before I go back to yapping. Okay. Good. Good Rudius move. Good Rudius move. This Robert, yeah, good. Right? When she has issues, he doesn't cross boundaries. He was thinking about me, not just himself. I think that's true. And so but then when you lose your family, let me just get to the part where you lose your family. Let me focus. Stop talk. Man, and that's like, this is kind of crazy to me too, Rudius was so great, too great, and he only got greater on that day when we encountered the Dragon God. During the confrontation with Orsted, Ruinjad and I were terrified by what we saw as the embodiment of fear before us. Only Rudius was completely unaffected. He even managed to land an attack. Like, Eris, you're kind of ignoring that the reason that the fight occurred was because he started talking. You know what I'm saying? And, like, Ruijerd didn't press him on that at all either, where they wouldn't have had a fight. Like, the confrontation with Orsted happened because of Rudy. Rudy's the one that fumbled that, right? But neither Ruijerd nor Eris, like, at all bring that up and confront him on that, right? Of saying, like, hey, what was up with that, man? You know? And even Eris sees this as another example of Rudy being even better. But it's like, I would see that as a way to think that, man, maybe Rudy does make mistakes and F things up. Maybe he almost got himself killed because he started talking with the strongest guy in the world and ignoring, you know, us being terrified, right? Like Rudius was completely unaffected, but it's like, that's the issue, is that he wasn't paying attention at all to Ruijerd and Eris being terrified. But instead, Eris sees that, ignores that point completely, and sees it as a positive thing because he's so strong. But it's like, you can be strong, you can be as strong as you want in the world, but if you're not, like, wise to know where to use it, it doesn't matter, right? And, like, Rudius, as strong as he is, lacked any wisdom to avoid Orsted, and then got punished for it, but nobody presses Rudy for lacking that wisdom and completely fumbling that. And, like, Eris is putting him on, like, a huge pedestal, so, like, I guess I wouldn't expect Eris to, like, map that out, or to, like, even care about it, I guess. But, like, Ruijerd, I kind of thought Ruijerd would press him on that at one point, but he never kind of did. It's like, Ruijerd, man, like, what is up with that? Maybe we should talk to Rudy about the whole, like, getting the strongest guy in the world to swing on us. Maybe that's something we need to talk to Rudy about, of, like, hey, I don't know what you were thinking talking to that guy. Like, we didn't even bring that up. We just kind of walked away. And And then yeah, the like Rudius was strong. There's no way he would die. And she's like, oh wait a second, he could die. That means like I could lose him, which makes me even more attached to him. Like that'll make sense. Yeah. And then now Rudius was becoming godlike. Like she thinks even higher and higher and higher with Rudy over and over and over. But yeah, let's keep going. We're getting to the crazy part right now. Okay, dude. Okay. He was quite that's the Paul gene. That's crazy to me. The Paul Clutch. Paul Clutch. Okay, dude. That's crazy to me. What? Wait, read some of this. Read some of this real quick. There were 2 lines that I'm like, wow, okay, she horny. That wasn't the case though. Rudius was turned on by me, and seeing him like that turned me on too, and then he was trying his best to keep up with me, but at this rate the fierceness of my desire might confuse him. I couldn't do that to him. The fierceness of my desire might confuse him. Gray rat moment, I guess. Gray rat. This is a crazy line. But I was not fit to be with him. I would only be a burden to him. We had become family, but we couldn't become more than that. We couldn't be husband and wife. It was as if he'd said we were better as brother and sister. We couldn't be husband and wife. It was as he'd said we were better as brother and sister. That's just kind of crazy to me. That's just a crazy line to read. Of, like, she's thinking, like, well, like, it's like she's debating between the relationship being husband and wife or brother and sister. It's like, what? Usually those two ideas aren't next to each other in how I've lived my life. I've never, you know what I mean? Or, like, that's completely something I haven't seen before. Of like, should we be husband and wife or should we be brother and sister kind of thing? Because at least right now she was like, right now we're better as brother and sister because we're not well balanced, which means we can't be husband and wife. But it's like, dude, like, usually these two things, usually brother and sister isn't like a precursor to husband and wife. You know what I'm saying? Usually those two phrases don't come together. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I used my body in order to keep him here. Man, it's just, like, she's just insecure. Very insecure. All I had left was Rudius, and I wanted us to become a family. I was impatient. Not everyone in his family had been found yet, so I was sure he'd immediately be off again, and he would leave me behind. There's also, wait, there was a line that I was like, what the heck? Wait, let me find that. Right here. Rudius had always been interested in my underwear, but he had never peeked on me while I was bathing. I guess she doesn't know it, but he literally does that all the time. You know, like in the beast place with the trees in the forest, he was peeking on all of them bathing, right? Like she only, I guess she doesn't even know the full extent of what Rudius does. That's like pervy, which is interesting, because like, yeah, he definitely has done some of that before that she, you know, is saying that he hasn't. So that's interesting. It's just like she deifies this guy, right? She just deifies. She idolizes is the better word. She idolizes this guy, and doesn't feel like enough for him. Doesn't feel worthy of him. Insecure, inferior in so many ways. It's just the line of like, I used my body in order to keep him there. In order to keep him here. That's just kind of wild to me. Like, she's worried that she's gonna move on and she'll be left behind and all these things. So she uses her body. Oh, hi, cat. She uses her body to, like, keep him around, you know? Huh. I don't even know what to do with that. Kitty. You can probably barely see her. Look at her little goose head. Her little goose head right there. Yeah. And then some of this is kind of crazy, too, you know? Partway through, he grew weak and feeble, as if he might break. Bro, Rudy lacks stamina. That's crazy. Yeah. I guess I'm gonna just pet my cat for a minute and think about this. Yeah, I mean, it's like that thing of she starts falling in love with him when she's 12, right? Hello. 12. Like, what do you know what you want when you're 12, right? Like, you know, or 15 or whatever, right? Like, there's so much life to live. There are so many experiences to have. There's so much more brain to be grown that for her to form like a Rudius is the only person for me at 12 years old, and then for that to maintain, and then for that to be like kind of like made into a thing at 15 with the sex. It's like, dog, she had this idea forced on her when she was 12 by her parents. She has no idea what she actually wants, right? Like, I don't, like, even if she thinks she wants this, like, I don't think she'll want it in the future necessarily, because it was forced on her when she was 12, and a lot of it comes out of, like, issues of, like femininity and like, nobody else will love me, like, this is the only one, you know? And so, that's just kind of crazy to be, and it doesn't seem good or healthy to, like, be attached to Rudy, especially from 12, from such a young age. Like, you have no idea what's going on, man. I barely know what I want in life, and I'm way older than 12, or maybe I'm 14, that's a matter. No, but, like, you know what I mean? So for that, like, even if you want to, like, try to be like, oh, but 15, like, that's she's an adult, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, even if you accept that, which I don't 100% accept that or anything, but even if you do, like, this all started when she was 12. Like, all these ideas of, like, sex and Rudy being the only one happened at 12. So for them to maintain, it's like that old baggage is what's causing this to happen nowadays. Which kind of goes into, like, why is, like, incest or things with minors usually bad. Like, it's a lot of the time it's because, like, older sister, older brother with a younger sister, younger brother, like, when they're so young, they're so vulnerable to being manipulated, to having ideas imprinted on them, to have all these things, like, oh, this is the only person that'll love you, this is the only genuine blah, blah, blah. Cat, please go. Yes, you want to go down? Please go down. Stop getting on my keyboard. Right, so, yeah, like, they're malleable. Children are young, their brains and their ideas are so malleable, which is, like, a reason that all those, that, like, minors are usually, it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do, like, some things that can have some very real and lasting consequences, like having a baby, right, when we're this young. Because, I mean, like, there is a chance she straight up is pregnant, right? And I don't think the show's gonna do that, but it's like, yeah, maybe this is, like, if she could be, you know? I didn't see any flavor text here about, and he put on a rubber. I didn't see that, okay? Like, so, you know? Or, like, so, like, in that way, like, it's a very real and possible thing. That's, like, there's a reason that this stuff is usually for people that understand the consequences. They never even bring up the idea of, like, a child being born out of this. Nowhere in this does Eris think about it. I mean, she talks about wanting a well, no, that's not true. She talks about wanting a family and that, like, later we would actually have kids. Yeah. We would grow, get stronger, and meet each other again. Then we would take the next step in our family and become husband and wife. I would have his kids. Girl, you already did. You might have already done that, and then that would, like, F up your entire swordswoman journey and ambitions if you actually had pumped out a baby. That would, like, get in the way of a lot of real life responsibility, or, like, life responsibilities that you want to do, right? And it's like, maybe that's part of why this is such a bad idea to do when you're young, because you don't know what you want, and so, especially for a woman to, like, become pregnant and, like all that kind of stuff, is like, dude, now's not the time. You don't know what's going on. And she doesn't even consider the risk of, like, having a kid up to that point. She only says, like, oh, we'll do it later, which almost even shows that she isn't even thinking about, like, that could happen now. Because I don't, you know, I'm not seeing nothing about Rudius's pull-out game, okay? And that doesn't even work a lot of the time. Even if they did have that flavor text. You know, where's my fantasy birth control? I ain't seeing it. So, like, this just is, like, Eris is kind of, I feel like Eris is effed up. In a couple ways, right? And even, you know, like, with the insecurities and the like, the only Rudius will love me, which is kind of like maybe some, like, body issue stuff with, like, not feeling feminine, all that kind of stuff. And then because of these things happening so early in her life, she's not considering, like, lasting consequences. Who even knows if this is what she wants? She hasn't even met, like she's, like, trying to make official and lasting the relationship she had when she was 15, or, like, 12 even, and then has grown to the point of 15, where it's like, there's so many more people for you to meet and potentially fall in love with other than Rudius. And, like, even if you feel that way when you're 15, it's like, guess what? A lot of people when they're 15 think that they're with their true love for the rest of the time. A lot of the times they aren't, okay? A lot of the times things happen and people, you know, people grow apart, blah, 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 especially as they age, especially as their brain grows, as things change. As people become adults, there's a lot of change that occurs, you know? So, to try to do this big step, which could result in having a kid, especially in this story without, like, birth control stuff, is just like, this is why we don't do this kind of stuff. And like for Rudy, it's like, dog, like did Rudy even once think about the possibility of having a kid? I haven't even thought about that until just now, until she mentioned it. I was like, wait a second, that's a crazy point. The whole family. Well, no, that's a lie. I was thinking about it a little bit, but like, Rudy, were you thinking about it? You know, the potential of like straight up, when she even says like, give me your kittens or whatever. Rudy, what if you actually give her a kitten? Have we thought about this? Yeah. Huh. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. Yeah, I don't even have much more to add. What do we do next? Comments? Let me pet the cat, go give her some food, and then we'll come back to do comments. Because you are in the way. You want to like say hi to people? Do you want to say hi? Oh, she screams. I just want to show people your face. Say hi. Hello. Don't worry, I'm petting her. I'm petting her a lot. Okay. I will cut to when I've dealt with her. Okay, we're back. Very interesting, Eris. Very interesting. I appreciate your thoughts, Eris. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, the next thing on the docket is comments. So, I haven't read any of the comments yet, but they have been checked for spoilers, and I think we're safe. What I'm going to do is, the same thing with the reading. I'm going to read through all the comments, and then if I have any things to say immediately, I'll say them, but otherwise, I'll just summation at the end and cut out the blank space. So, see you in a momento as I read first episode 21, then 22, then 23. You already know how it goes. I can't. Okay. Alright, we did it. That's all 3. That's 100 and I think 20 comments read. Wow. Okay. I don't even know. Guys, I don't know if I'm cut out for this one. It's crazy to me. There's just so much to think about and, like, to talk about. And it's just like, okay, no, we lock in, we go. Okay. I'm not reading all of these out loud. I just read them all, but I'm not going to read all of them out loud. We're just going to hit some big hitters, and then we're going to move on, and then we're going to do the tier list after. That's the play. Woo, take a breath. Okay, so, coincidence talk. So yeah, that's something I've been talking about a lot, of, like, there's a lot of contrivances or coincidences, which is something I've been talking about, yeah, it just happens a lot. I think this is a good clarification that, like, Rudy brought them to the Roxy Village, but for it to be the Roxy Village is the coincidence, right? Because, like, he didn't know that it was Roxy's village, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that's kind of, I don't know. I'm not trying to, like, dig super hard into the contrivances or coincidences anymore. I'm just going to wait to see if it becomes a thing that's, like, part of the story or just kind of accept it as it is, and it is what it is, right? Like, I could just try to nail, like Keisha, Rika, and Roxy randomly meeting. Like, but, like, at this point, it's not worth all the effort of caring, right? I'm just going to accept it as it comes. And, like, the whole, like, Rudius wouldn't even stop at Chiron Kingdom if Mangod hadn't told him to. Well, yeah, but it's not that Rudy showed up there, because that was Mangod. It was that Chiron Kingdom had Lilia and Aisha, which only happened because they knew that Lilia was connected to Roxy, and Lilia came in and said, the whole situation of Lilia getting there is what I was calling the contrivance, not Rudius showing up, because Rudius had a very clear reason. Mangod, which was why I was thinking maybe some of these other coincidences are also Mangod or something similar, but again, I don't want to get super deep into that, so basically that's some clarification there. This is also a good point as well. I didn't even think about, like, Geese, like, was, like, looking to find Rudy specifically, in which case, hey, Geese, maybe let me know next time. I don't know, like, I think that could make sense. I didn't get that impression, but, like, maybe with the light novel that would make more sense, because, like, he never told us, right? But, like, yeah, I think that could make sense. Geese heard rumors about a young human boy in captivity. How, like, did he get, like, young human boy or young human boy with blonde hair that's a magician that was thrown? You know what I mean? Like, that is a pretty low plot thread to go, but I kind of can see where it's going for there, and I can kind of accept that, so cool. A lot of people being really positive as well. I'm not gonna, like, shout out every single person, but I really do appreciate it, so I very, very positive. I'll even give you a heart. The episode being framed with anxiety is very, very true. Rudy popping off basically is very, very true. Talked about that in the Discord a little bit. I'm pretty, like, the we got to feel the fear curse. I mean, it worked. It definitely worked. Rudy's failing the persuasion check with Orsted, that kind of conversation. Like, these are, it's like a thing that's like, I understand how it happened, but I still want to scream at Rudy for it, right? like it's like just enough to be understandable, but not enough for me to be like it's like, Rudy, stop being stupid, please. But like I get why he was stupid, right? These are all like reasons why. Like he had never heard or read anything about Man God, so when somebody mentions that name, he got excited and learn regard. It's like, dog, please go learn about Man God. We got to learn something about Man God because we don't know anything about him. This is like the reason I was stressing about Man God the entire time, right? Because it's like, dude, we don't know anything about this guy. And so and then the first time that like he becomes relevant in the real world, he gets his chest skewered, bro. It's like, yeah, this guy's an issue. We can't be talking about this guy. So we got to do some like reading in libraries or like, I don't know. Didn't Ruijerd say something about like the 7 ancient gods or something? Like we got to follow up on that. I don't know how. We haven't really had a great chance to, I guess, but yeah, I'm sus of the Man God. And yeah, like Rudy didn't experience a church. It's just like and I talked about this earlier, but I'll reiterate slightly. Where it feels like somewhat a repeat of the situation with the Tufts, where that Ruijerd and Rudy had their big disagreement and argument for, or like afterwards. Where I felt like after that they had like grown together as a group and we're like, okay, let's work as a group unit more. But then when Orsted shows up, Rudy starts acting on his own. When when Ruijerd said don't move, Rudy ignores that and acts on his own, and then gets gets himself almost killed, right? Because he gets revived. But so it felt like a step back in that department of working as a group, where when he didn't listen to Ruijerd. That's mostly because like if Ruijerd didn't say anything, then it would be different, right? It would be very different. But to ignore Ruijerd is like what really hurts, or like what really gets me there. But yeah, like I do hear all the points about like the curse stuff and stuff. This gets into the next few episodes. Turning points are crazy. Sword, the sword style breakdown of the combat. Lots of stuff with the blocking, deflecting. Yeah, dude, man, what? North God's still my favorite. I just like North God because it's just it's like trolling. It's like throwing random stuff around. That's so funny to me. It's different from Gillian and Eris that use Sword God style. They need speed. Real. It's like reminds me of One Punch Man, some of that stuff, but I won't get into that. This is a good thing that I completely forgot about, because I was talking about the ships, I was talking about the map of like, dude, let's just sail across the continent, but then I was like, well, there's probably a reason they don't, so like, that's interesting. Sea monster, or sea folks, so like, if you tried to sail across without like a contract with them or something, you would get smited, so, heard. We are getting hoed by the Atlanteans, basically. And the Heaven Continent, as you mentioned, is a no-no, yeah, and we were able to assume that, so, basically, ouch. Elaboration on Rudy's good, we love to see it. Power ranking was important as well. Definitely feeling that. Super wholesome how much she cares about Rudy at the end. She really, really does. Man, Eris. Eris! Somebody else, I'm just gonna skip to a later comment. This is crazy to me. So, okay. The two of them. This is from the 3rd episode, but this is important. I'm skipping to it. Where are they? Here's one of them. Where's the second one? Let me find it. Quiet. I don't want to have to keep cutting stuff, so I want to just find it right here. Something about NTR. Okay, basically this. Dude, LMO, you act like he got NTR'd. It was worth watching this channel. He got NTR'd from his daughter. So I'm ignoring the NTR part because what an insane thing. I think it was somebody else said it, bro. Who said it? Which one of you rascals? Which one? I'm literally Control F NTR. I'll find it. No. NTR space? Frick. Who? I know y'all are talking about NTR. Okay, whatever. I don't even... This point of daughter. Somebody else in the Discord, I think it was Bin Chicken, was saying, was like comparing like my feelings towards Eris as like a parental thing, and like somebody else, like people have been mentioning that somewhat. So true. It's actually crazy. Like somebody was like, you're acting like her, like you, like it's like you're like watching your daughter, like what, there's like a father thing. I was like, when somebody first said that, I was like, holy crap, you're right. You're kind of right. Like not entirely, but like the parental drive is crazy. I've talked about it a little bit before, but just seeing it, it's like, yeah, it really does feel like that, doesn't it? Especially because we met her when she was like 12 getting curb stomped. That's like the biggest parental like extreme thing I've ever, it's like, holy crap, I need to protect this child. And then we see this child who like, this is the crazy thing to me. That's like my new, screw my whiteboard, screw everything I was talking about at the beginning. No, don't entirely, because it's still fun, some fun stuff. But like, Rudy, her relationship with Rudy, I am just so scared of. Because when she's 12, her mother is telling her, no one will love you except for Rudy, go have sex with him. and then she almost does. You know, that sounds like huge self-esteem issues where she feels like only one person can love her in that kind of way, which is not true, you know? And it's like, you're so young that, like, I don't... oh my goodness. Yeah. So it's like wholesome, but then it's like used in such ways that's like, then they have sex, which could like if they actually like, if she popped out a kid, you know, or like the sex is like a application or like a culmination of her feeling like nobody else could love her in that kind of way. It's like, bro, it's like she feels soulmated at age 12 to 15. It's like she's soulmated, bro, over these 3 years, which I mean, it's a long time, but like, especially starting at 12 when she started to fall in love, quoting the Eris chapter. It's like, dog, I don't think you can start falling in love at 12. I don't think you have any idea what's going on, man. And some people will talk about that, so I'll get to that comment in a second and continue to parse, but it's just, I just don't know, man. Eris, I don't even know if I want to try to keep getting in your head anymore. It's just a scary place. It makes me sad. It makes me protective of it. I don't know anymore. Orsted's a menace. Orsted definitely has, like, can't see Rudy. I think this is true. Main God also can't predict Rudy. Things are only entertaining if you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's entirely true. And that's because he was reincarnated. Question is, why was he reincarnated? Or, like, he was isekai'd into the world, right? So a god not being able to predict Rudy is actually a huge piece of information, because then all of a sudden, if you have any god out there that has this omnipotence, probably Laplace has it too, if they ever see Rudy and they're like, wait a second, I have no idea who you are, then that tells them exactly who you are by process of elimination of you are an isekai person, right? It's like if I know everyone and everything, and like if I know everyone and kind of have a gauge on them like Orsted, and then all of a sudden I don't know somebody, then that becomes extraordinarily important, right? Which is like, Rudy, the reason that the foreshadowing for this being important is that the gods are taking interest in you, which is the thing I've been freaking out about the entire time, which you haven't been freaking about the entire time, but it is what it is, so we just take those and we move on. Honestly, that's my new way of approaching the show. We take those, we move on. Light work, no reaction. Light work, no reaction. Light work, no reaction. Continue. Oh, it has a little kick. She did impress him. Eris is like even more stronger. This quote of Rudy has influenced the world in ways that Orsted didn't express and actively made Eris better. I want to fix that. Made Eris stronger. Better is a word I'm not sure about. Maybe and probably yes. I could probably agree with better overall, but some of his actions, I would say, have worsened, have like made her sadder and made her less good, and like have like and is increased like her like self-worth issues, blah blah blah, like the lack of communication and like with the sex and all that stuff. The lack of communication is like the crazy part to me, right? One of the crazy parts, but like but I think overall he has had a positive influence on her, which is good. Hey, Rudy, shake the hand. Like, you're not an irredeemable monster, Rudy. You're really not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can shake your hand sometimes. Not right after you just, like, cranked it or anything. Because of you, but I don't know. We'll get to that later. I don't know. This is true, especially that he would walk away. Orsted's crazy. I'm excited to see Orsted again. And then, yeah, I'm with you on all this. This is interesting as well. The curse stuff, LePace transferring it to the spirits, all that kind of stuff. Map stuff. Apparently the map's huge. Huge. In terms of, like, the walking distance. So that's kind of cool to see. The breakdown of the fight, I love. The fight was really interesting post Rudy messing up the dialogue. Rudy was making huge, great moves. Love to see it. Really liked how he was using his magic. Very innovative. I was super here for that. Orsted seems kind of touched that Rudy can see me with eyes. Plus, Rudy is like caring or like relating to Orsted was interesting. This is funny, like a ReZero crossover. The Zenoba politics are really interesting here. Of a like. The next king's decided by whoever has the most servants. No wonder Pax is trying to, like, min-max by kidnapping people. Or, like, yeah, that's crazy to me. And then, yeah. So, I'm with you. I'm with the map stuff. Really appreciate the positive stuff. Jum. Sea monsters. True. This was interesting. What if the Hitogami is just a persona of one of the 7 great powers? It could be true. Because, like, Man God. We haven't heard of Man God anywhere else. Like, if somebody's, like, calling themselves Man God, we don't know. We don't know anything about this guy, so who even knows? And then, yeah, we're keeping the coincidence list. About people bracing themselves for your reaction to a certain scene. We've seen that now. For me, the scene's totally okay. It's a beautiful scene that portrays the human character in his full glory. I think people are mostly scared because of your extremely rigid judgment on Rudy. It feels that Rudy has absolutely no space to fail, even a little bit, without getting absolutely massacred by you, which I think is unfair, but it is what it is. I mean, I disagree on extremely rigid, but I think we can agree to disagree. For sake of comparison, blah, 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 blah. I honestly think that you need to be at least a little ignorant to find so much problem with that scene. Wait, for sake of comparison. So it's gonna be fine, or it should be nothing worse than what you've already seen. I mean, I would say episode 22 was in air quotes worse because it actually went somewhere, right? So like comparing it to episode 8, like episode 8 was like, it was like going there and then it stopped, but yeah, so they're different. It depends on how you quantify worse. I like beautiful scene that portrays the human character in his full glory. It's like I would only say beautiful in a horrible and tragic, depressing sense. Like it's not like this is like genuine, beautiful human connection. This is like, oh, this is human connection that's really scary and worrying about like the I think is like insecurities with Eris's character and such. And then like it made Rudy like regress and like feel really awful too. So like if it's like you could say like beautiful in like a painful way. I can kind of get what you mean there, like, you know, beauty and pain kind of deal. We do a little masochism, but in terms of like beautiful because this is like a beautiful love story. Just I can't see this as like a beautiful love story. Like I can't get on board the Rudy. Like somebody else said something that I really liked of like, I think it's this one. Yeah, I totally admit there's a difference between those who love MT and think Rudy and Eris are fine together. Yeah, like I don't think Rudy and Eris are fine together. But depending on how the show handles that, I could really like the show, right? So it kind of depends on that kind of stuff. And then as I've explained before why I judge Rudy the way I do. I'm not going to do it again. The uncensored version for season 1, I didn't even know there were censored versions. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to watch is the one that's out right now because I'm going to watch season 2 pretty much soon, right? Very soon. Mage stuff, sea stuff, head explode stuff. This was really cool that the Laplace demon has to do with a casual determination, which is crazy. I think I've like heard of this before, but I never connected the Laplace things. That's super cool to connect, which I think applies super well to Rudy being somebody that shakes up the known precise location of every atom in the universe from the determinism like thing, right? So Rudy is like the random guy that crashes through and like shifts everything. It could be more than Rudy too. We don't know who is all going out there, right? I'm gonna be racist, real, smoking at wrong predictions in rapid succession. Okay, next. I mean, it's my job to predict things. It is what it is. It is what it is. Or I could just end the video. Imagine, right? I watched the episode and I'm like, hey guys, that was a cool episode. Talk to you next time. And you know what I mean? Like, you can do that. Just skip the predictions if you don't like them. It's simple. That's min-maxing your happiness. Think about it. Min-max your happiness. Okay. It turned out true that Ghislaine had already made it back. The thing, I just expect if Ghislaine made it back, I thought that the information would be able to travel to Paul somehow. But it really, man, the distances being like truly 3 years to make that walk. And right after Mana Cataclysm, I guess the like postal service, or like however you exchange information would be like super overloaded. So I guess I could see why that information wouldn't make it to him. Or wouldn't make it to Paul, right? That Ghislaine's fine. I just kind of thought that we would run into Ghislaine, like, that Ghislaine and Paul would have, like, met up in some fashion. But Ghislaine was busy where she was, right? So that made sense. I'm glad where that panned out. Because I was always wondering, like, where's my Ghislaine at? Like, she's super strong. But no, she was just busy. So I'm happy with that. And then the demonized stuff I think is real, too. This is funny. Redundancies a spin-off or something. Heard. And then, I thought this was cool as well, that Rudy not wanting to hurt, or like not wanting to kill people could be from his own personal experience of like redemption, where it's like, I don't want to kill people because people can be better, so it's like I'm snuffing out a life that could have improved. I like that. I'm not sure if Rudy is there. I don't know if Rudy's like consciously thought that out and like has made that into a philosophy, but that might be why he acts the way he does, which I think is interesting. I would like to see Rudy explore that because that is a really cool idea. Cool. Next. Pink got so traumatized by the second part of the episode they forgot to yap about Rudyard leaving in his manly tears at the fact that his 400 years of no progress finally got somewhere. Real. This is like, Rudyard, hey, good arc, loved you, man. I got other things to talk about. I mean, I liked Rudyard a lot. Rudyard grew on me so much. Rudyard actually boggled out of his mind, right? And yeah, like the kind of full circle of where he is, and like Rudy was a hugely positive impact on Ruger, so like super pog. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the thumbnail here because the thumbnail was good. This was a good thumbnail. Okay, the author said in an interview that few shows talk about the awkward part of sex. That's why the fan service in Mushoku Tensei does not feel like fan service in other shows. You can see this perspective in Rudius himself. In the beginning, he viewed sex as pleasure, but knowing people and forming bonds, you can feel the change in his perspective over time. That's like the crazy thing, man. Because he's not doing it. He's doing it to like cement their bond, but I'm so worried about their bond being unhealthy, right? Because of the result of the parental or the trauma from losing the parents, from like starting when she was 12, being forced on her by her mother. You won't love, and nobody will love you except for Rudius in this way, in this like romantic or sexual way, that kind of stuff. So like the knowing people and forming bonds is the part that makes me dread and scared, right? Like I'm not confident that will be healthy, like their relationship. That's like a large part of where it is there. And I mean, what happened wasn't healthy for Rudius, right? I mean, we could at least say that much. Because she left, right? Because of how crazy everything was, which was because they weren't communicating very well, right? Because their interpersonal relationship level was freaking not there. Their like ability to communicate and like understand each other in that way was absent in this thing because maybe they weren't ready to do this, right? Like it's just a crazy thing to throw in when I don't think they were ready. Which the show, but it's just like it goes back to this thing where it's like how does it hurt? And then is Rudy able to realize it? How much do we judge Rudy? That's where I'm like running into the muck. Because I don't see Rudy as like a super evil blah 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 blah. I also don't see him as like a super... He's not like an exemplar... I don't even know what to call him. He's a complicated person, bro. Complicated. Maybe that's just the word I use from now on. You're complicated. Okay, let's just go. Keep going. One of the best scenes in the entire anime. One of the best and most tasteful depictions of sex. Somebody else said something about tasteful too, and I even said something about tasteful too because at least we didn't see any. Like I didn't want to see any like fan service or like shock stuff. It's just best it's like best depiction of sex, but it's like the use of sex is so like causes me so much worry and sadness for poor Eris and her self-worth issues and her connection to and her ability to connect with people on like an emotional level, and same thing with Rudy too. So it's like best depictions of how sex hurts people, and how sex can hurt people. Like I could get behind that, but like, yeah, it's just they're using sex in a way that I never see in media. So it's like, holy crap, I don't know how to use this. I don't even see this in anything. I don't see, it's just crazy. Blah 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 blah. It's both incredibly romantic, but also incredibly tragic given the circumstances and Eris' mentality. It also shows that even though how much Rudy and Eris have grown so much as fighters, they're both extremely mentally immature and suffering on the inside. Like that! I like it! That's what I'm talking about, man! Both of them are extremely mentally immature and suffering and not ready for this. And I would hope, and I guess it's just not the case, but like Rudy, I need Rudy we need to change and be more mature. We need to fix. And that's what the journey is about. So it's like, Rudy, I need Rudy to go through the most insane character arc of all time in the next season. I need this walking into the snowstorm alone to be the most fire thing I've ever seen. Because, Rudy, I am so ready for you to go through some extremely insane change to increase your emotional maturity and completely roll and smoke emotions from now. Like, let's make some moves happen. Like, let's get some gas flowing. I'm so ready for it, man. Eris, you too. I'm putting you on the shelf for a little bit. Eris, have fun on the shelf. Okay, get out of here. But yeah, like, they're so good at fighting. They're so good at killing people, sure. But, like, I agree with this so much. It's the internal battles the character have with themselves that are the most compelling. Yes, so let's send it, man. That's why I don't want Eris to just walk off her parents' death. Because I feel like that's such a good point to have some crazy internal battles and, like, such. Yeah, and, like, walk off parents' death, like, people are gonna say, like, but no, she, like, separated from Rudy, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that was mostly because she almost lost Rudy, right? Like, it's all, like, connected, but I want more weight. Just give me more suffering. More suffering for the people I care about. More. Yeah, and then I think this is true as well. Wait, what is this? I love how the anime also tried to express what you're saying through the visual directions, because we got less of the blatantly sexualization stuff. Yeah, I think the most like blatant sexualization from 22 was just the shot where she says like, "You've been oogling me, haven't you?" And it's like her breasts. So that's like, but yeah, compared to a lot of the other shots, it was a lot less because it was a lot more serious. So they weren't framing it in like a fun like, or like not even fun, but they were framing it a lot differently. That's super true. That's super true. Blim, 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 blim. I am lucky. Thumbnail's what I expected. We love the thumbnail. A near-death experience for the mental. It's an incredible amount of trauma and reproductive instinct. Turning points. So many turning points. I low-key thought turning point 3 was about to be them banging. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that felt like... I guess it was kind of just connected to 2. Yeah. Hats off to the sorrowful departure of the journey-long cock-block Ruijerd. I couldn't do anything by myself. Yeah. We love Ruijerd. And like you said, it isn't really fan service and none of it is out of perversion. It's just an honest-to-God story. And my main takeaway is that Rudy got what he's always wanted, but it didn't go well. It turns out it's not really what he really wants. It's really not that important. It's like this kind of thing. It's like, it turns out it's not what he really wants. Like for these people to not know what they want, to do things that could like very strongly impact their lives, aka have a kid or whatever, or just very drastically change their interpersonal relationship, is just like... It's just, man, we're like waving red flags. It's like we're like watching. Man, it's just we're watching a story where people. It's like we're watching a story where Rudy makes a lot of mistakes and then like suffers from them and then tries to grow from them, right? And that can be difficult to watch if you're not willing to let Rudy make those mistakes and you hold him to too high a standard. But it's like, so like, how high do I hold the Rudy standard? I'm pretty much, I think I might even be just dropping the Rudy standard entirely and just taking it as it comes at this point. And just so we can see him fall, see the pits. I'll just watch him climbing through the pits, I guess. Debating the morality, Rudy certainly shouldn't have done it. He knew this and fought against it, frankly, to an astonishing degree, given what we know. To an astonishing degree, given what we know. Given the parent, I don't want to give him that much credit. Like, I give it, he gets some credit for the initial, like, no, resist, but I wouldn't even say astonishing. I don't want to get, I wouldn't give him, my standard for Rudy's higher than that, but it's not so high that he did nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because he fought against it a little bit by being like, what about our promise, right? But, like... given the immediate situation with with all the trauma that she just got from the parents dying, like, I feel like that just takes precedence so much, or should have taken precedence for him so much, which is something he didn't really engage with her with. But, Rudy making a misplay in, like, a dialogue is just what Rudy does. I mean, it's what happened with Orsted, it's what... happened with Paul, though honestly the Paul thing was like both of them a lot. So I don't even hold I don't hold that against Rudy like that much at all, So we accept that as like, this is what Rudy does, and hope he will grow and he will be better. Maybe, but that's the journey, I suppose. But there was a limit to his resistance and ultimately gave in. It's fair to criticize that, but Eris isn't completely... Yeah, and like Eris blaming Eris for this is something some people are talking about as well. Rudy wasn't in the best state himself, and in her eyes, he was even in a minor who was refusing her quite heavily at that. From that perspective, she sort of cornered him into going through with something he didn't want, not to mention leaving him behind her after it was just dirty. Right, and it's like I think Eris was not... Like, the thing is, like, I want to... Wow, okay. We need to pull it together. The thing with Eris, she's not completely blameless. Oh, I agree. But I am giving her a huge olive branch because her parents just died. So it's like, I don't think she's in any mental condition to be asking of anything, right? Like, I would imagine that she is so mentally disrupted that I couldn't blame her for a lot, because at this point, like, it's like, I'm not even, like, it's like her trauma has, like, completely blindsided her so hard that's, like, not even blindsided because she knew it was coming, blah, 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 but, like, her trauma has hit her so hard that it's like I don't even know how much I can blame her for things. But then it's like, okay, how much has Rudy's trauma hit him recently? Almost dying, right? That wasn't great for him. He was having nightmares about that and all that. So that's not great. And somebody was talking about that later in one of these comments. Rudy. I need to sit down and have a coffee with Rudy and just talk to him. Okay. Given her determination and her later lack of regret, because I saw the finale already, I kind of have to respect her decision a little, even if I like it. She's a character and she made moves, completely putting the situation that she needs to get in. She had a lot of control over on Rudy, would make her out to be a victim. That doesn't really ring true to me. It's just, she's a character and made moves under the guise of all the it's just the parental trauma that made that. How much of an excuse can I give her for that? How much is it that is having having both your parents revealed to be dead and your grandfather who you actually cared about, even if you didn't care about your parents that much, is that being revealed to you and then sitting in a tent and crying by yourself and then your immediate next move? How much can I judge you for your immediate next move given the context? That's the question. And I feel like I can't that much. But that's like, okay, Rudy almost just died and he got revived. How much can I judge him for like his stuff that comes after? Like, he's had more time, like, I mean, it was like a few days ago, so there was some time to talk about it that they didn't talk about it, so it was a little less right in the moment, where with Eris, it was literally the next interaction she had with Rudy was that. Man, I'm gonna, like, bang my head into my desk until I don't even think anymore. This is crazy to me. This is crazy. It feels like that meme of, like, have you seen that? It's like, I can draw... This is a quote from, like, I think Community, right? It's like, I can draw their line at racism, but I'm not okay with child trafficking. Or whatever the quote. I don't remember the quote. But it's like, it feels like that's what the show's trying to make me do. Of, like, I can draw the line at pedophilia. But you know what I'm saying? Nobody clip that. That's out of context. But you know what I mean? That's like, I feel like it almost feels like the show's trying to make... there's just so many things stacked. It's like, the show is, like, min-maxing reasons for this to happen. To the point of, like... Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this again? Why are we min-maxing all these things to, like, make this, like, part of the story? Like, what are we getting out of this? Other than just, like, pain and suffering or something. Like, and it's, like, they're trying to make some moves, right? But, like, why the sex part, right? Like, what, like, it's such an interesting focus. And there's, you can get reasons, you can come up with reasons, but, like, that's part of the whole, like, raising the bar for sensitive media thing that I've talked about a couple times. And, like, a really quick thing I wanted to talk about really quick. There's a tangent, so skip ahead if you don't care. All the people mashing right arrow on their keyboard or tapping on their phone or whatever. Calm yourself. But, like, there's a book I read I'm gonna make this really quick. There's a book I read a long time ago. I read it. It was like, it had like 3 reviews on some random like book reading website. I'm just on a whim. I read a random book, and it was basically just the most painful thing, right? It was like this guy, his like daughter gets kidnapped. He 20 years later finds the guy that kidnapped the daughter, and then gets like kidnapped by the guy and gets tortured a bunch, and then it's like horrible and it's like gory and gratuitous, and then like he kills the guy, and then his daughter like big reveal. I'm spoiling this random book, by the way. I don't know the name, so get spoiled, but this got 3 reviews on like Goodreads or something. It's fine. But then it's like big reveal. The daughter's there, and now she tortures him, and then he like dies down there, and it's just horrible, and everyone dies, and it's just, I came out of it being just like, that was like I got nothing out of that except for pain. Like I didn't learn anything, and there was no development of themes. It was literally just like, here's a bad situation, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and you know, it's just like infinite looping down. So it's like, guess what? Just because your show makes me feel bad or your book makes me feel bad and like I get invested and I get hurt, just because you do that doesn't mean it's good. Because guess what? I could write a story that is literally, if I walk in the story and it's like, I'm going to hurt the reader of this story, then that's easy to do. Like, you just hurt them, you know? Like, hurting people is easy, but it's hurting people in a way that tells you something. It's having a painful story with a lot of trauma and a lot of crazy things happening, but it explores something. It gets into some interesting parts of the human condition, blah, blah, blah. Is Mushoku Tensei doing that? To some degree, it's like, it's trying to. It really is trying to, and it is in some areas doing well, but in some areas, I don't know if I'm there, you know? Which is why we're gonna keep watching so we can analyze it later. But yeah, that was just a random tangent. Okay, continuing. I'm broken because I'm broken. Something tasteful. We talked about that. I love Eris, but what she did to Rudy really sucks. I mean, she did, but I don't know how much you can judge her for it because of everything that happened with the parents. But, like, maybe she's not even that bothered by it because she barely talks about it and she just takes it, she just cries it off. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I should judge her a lot harder if she truly just takes that on the chin and it's just like, I'm just gonna do something selfish, you know, give myself a little birthday present, take a bite of the Rudiest pie, and then dip to go self-improve. But I think she's not even thinking about Rudiest that much because she thinks Rudiest is so OP that he'll just be fine. But at the same time, in her POV, she was also like, dang, he kind of feeble in bed, you know, or whatever she was saying. But yeah. Eris is not the heir of the Boreas family. She has an uncle in the capital. We learned that when Rudy and Philip talked at the end. That's a good point. Actually, I forgot about that. Because those are the people that took, is that the people that took, Hilda's kids, or, like, Philip's kids? Is that the person who did that? In which case, well, but that doesn't mean she's necessarily, yeah, like, she might not be the heir of the Boreas family as a whole, but she is the heir, or whatever. She's the next, she's, like, her parents and all of their political stuff, and then her grandfather, all that political stuff. Like, she is that line, you know? Even if, like, politically all the stuff goes to somebody else, like, any familial responsibilities that she might have felt from Saros or her parents would have rested on her. But she basically just says, F it, I don't care about none of that politics stuff, because who cares about this kingdom, and who cares about all the people in it if I don't actually know them or whatever. I'm gonna go become Giga Woman strong, and then I'm gonna go make a family with Rudius down later. It's like, okay. Speak your truth, Eris. You are, it's like, dude, it's like, am I really a father, bro? I'm joking, but it's like this character I care about. I'm like, so like protective, blah blah blah. But it's like, I feel like she's grown too much. She's grown out of the cage. She's grown out of me being able to, like, you know. So it's like she wants to fly off and do her thing, and at this point, she's doing it. So I just have to let her do her thing, and I you know, I'm not gonna like do your thing, Eris. I just have to let go. I I guess. But that means the investment is like, man, but like all my protective instincts I have to like destroy a little bit. But yeah. Your reaction wasn't as bad as I thought. It's like a 10% chance of a drop is happening. Me dropping the show, or you dropping the reaction, or a little bit of both. Who knows? The way you look at Eris is kind of interesting, somewhat similar to how Idol and VTuber are talk. You think of their idols as absolutely pure and think of sex as a sort of defilement. This is not an insult, by the way, but as I don't think your view is that simple and you're not that ignorant and out of touch. I, for one, think it was done tastefully. It's different from the banalization we see in Western media or the negation, aside from fan service, that we see in some Japanese media. Yeah, like, her having sex is one thing. Her having sex right after the parents. Like, that's, and I've said that a million times, right? Or in this episode, I've said it a million times. Like, that's really, I think, where it gets to for me. It's her, having these experiences happen in a way that I think is unhealthy and makes me and is like, oh no, my poor Eris, you know? That's what it is. Like, if she has sex, has a family, and it's done in like a very, like imagine, right? If she has sex, has a family in a very wholesome and sweet way, she's like, you know, like 18 or 20 or whatever with the love of her life, and they have kids, and it's, you know, whatever. Then like I would be like, go Eris, like you became like you grew up to be a very like healthy and wonderful woman, and that's what I'm here for. But there's also the point of like sex isn't always that nice, and a lot of times it's a lot more awkward, which seems and a lot more painful and annoying and blah 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 and like interpersonally complicated. That's kind of like I feel like a large part of the point, which is why, and it just comes back to the losing the parents the day of thing. Like, dog, and Eris, this is like my thing with you, Eris. You lose both your parents, and you're like, dang, I'm gonna go bang Rudy. Eris, what? You know what I'm saying? Am I crazy for that? I don't know why you're thinking with that right now, okay? I don't know why your horny instincts are coming in after losing your parents like that. Well, you know, because I know what it is. I like, time to make a family with Rudy is because I've lost my family. So I guess the reasoning's there, but it's just like, that's just like crazy to me. But I guess the reasoning's somewhat there of just like, oh yeah, like, this is we go make a family with Rudy, and like all that stuff that I was coping about, maybe it's a political thing, blah blah blah, and like a control thing, an independence thing, but like to some degree, it's just like, well, time to make time to make up for what I've lost and make a family with Rudius, and it's something that like I want to do because she do be apparently kind of horny, gray rat mood, but okay. Whew. Okay. Where am I? You ever been 2.5 hours into ranting about Mushoku Tensei? Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's probably like an hour and 45 because I've cut out, or maybe like 2 hours because I'm cutting out stuff, but whatever. Or like in terms of the video length. Amazing thumbnail video. Appreciate your hard work. Appreciate. Hey, shake the hand. Thank you. And then we did read the Eris thing. Another thing I would say is you are thinking about this episode slightly too much from Rudy's POV when IMO it's all about everyone except for Rudy. It's mostly Rudy and Eris POV and their motivations throughout the entire episode. Which one is this? 22? Well, yeah, because she's the one that like engages in so much of it, or like she's the one that's like pushing it so much. But for Rudy, because it's like, how does Rudy respond to this being pushed on him? Right? It's like a really big question because, I mean, the entire story, literally the entire story has been building up for Rudy to do something sexual that finally crosses lines or whatever. Like, we've just been pushing Rudy doing something sexual, Rudy being pervy, Rudy blah 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 the entire time. So for something big and sexual to happen with Rudy and to immediately think about Rudy, I think is like the show. That's what the show's like trained us to do, right? Like, I don't know, yeah. Bro, Ruijerd. I freaking love Ruijerd. He has not. That's a crazy thing. He has nothing to do with sex. He's just Giga Chad. I'm gonna, my family name, protect some children, do my thing, speak my truth. That's my Ruijerd grind set right there. All this sex talk is getting me is like, whew, too much. Give me some more Ruijerd action, bro. After 22 episodes, any discussion about the subject will be a rehearsal of previous discussions. We will start repeating ourselves over the same subject. If you've already decided on your stance on the matter and the show failed to provide you with any different opinions, then I think it's just pointless to argue back and forth. It's clear that you have a rock-solid position on the matter and won't budge or compromise, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why you think that. I would disagree that I'm completely unbudging. I think I have, with Rudy, like, I feel like I've shifted, and if that's coming across or not, I'm not sure. But I do feel like an internal shift with these characters and with the themes, after these episodes, and like thinking about it's just messy, right? And which is what the show's exploring. So I disagree with that. Let's all remember that no one was hurt in real life. This I can agree with you on for sure. The beauty of fiction is that we can see these crazy impossible situations and we won't be able to see otherwise. Agreed 1,000,000%. That is the beauty of fiction. And I love that about fiction. Right? And then that gives us something to use. Like, 'cause that's what fiction can do, right? It's like we can use what we learned in exploring these themes with a crazy situation, and we can apply that to our actual lives, right? We can learn from Mushoku Tensei, we can learn from all these different shows, and apply that and understand people better, and understand motivations better, and understand how, like, difficult and awkward things can be better. We can also, like, experience, like, Rudy growing or not growing or stagnating and breaking out of that stagnation. We can experience all the emotions that go with that vicariously, which can inspire people to follow the same path or just be a positive experience in whatever way. And I love that. And I love that so much. It's just, and like, it can go, it can also fail to do that and instead just be a messy mess that, like, fiction can fail, right? And when it goes into sensitive themes, it increases the bar of entry for me, as I've said. But I can agree with you 1,000,000% on that. People are so on every side of the discussion. I feel like the Mushoku Tensei debate, like, rages in the internet, Like, I feel like there are, like, camps formed, there are houses being burned down, there are creators being crucified, there are comment wars, all this kind of stuff. So to walk in on it, and it's like people are like, oh, you're part of the pitchfork, get it, it's like, oh my goodness, guys, I just got here. I literally just I feel like I just walked into, like, two sides of a protest fighting against each other, and I just walked in the middle and I was like, hey guys, what's going on? Wham! You know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like to watch this show. It's crazy. We did read this. I appreciate for the people that were, like, posting it, wanting me to read it. So we did read it. I did also a fun little thing. I read we made the thumbnail in the Discord. Sometimes we do that for fun. Real. Was there something here? But another thing. Yeah, the, like, knowledge with. I've talked about this before, and I agree with this. Of. The older person uses the knowledge they have in life to manipulate the younger and more naive person to do what they want, and then also just that younger and naive people a lot of the times don't know what they want and are very malleable, blah blah blah, vulnerable, blah blah blah. So we agree with that. Many times in the reason, or blah blah blah. Sorry, the Dr. Pepper. But Rudy doesn't consent. He knows enough from his old life. Yeah, right. Okay. Right here. Eris is finally giving Rudy what he has obviously wanted, but Rudy doesn't consent initially. He knows enough from his old life that this path of doing the deed might lead to a lot of regrets and a strained relationship in the future. I sure hope he thinks that. I hope he does, and I think he, to some degree, does. And he doesn't want that, right? But then Eris, pushes him far enough that he collapses, and he actually does it, right? It was like he almost resisted, I don't know about almost. He did. There was a resistance. I don't know how close it was to successful because of how strong Eris was, right? Like a moda, it reminds me of, like, this is really quick, of, like, if you've heard the term, like, bloodlusted, like a what if battle. It's like bloodlusted Goku versus bloodlusted Super, that kind of thing. It's like lusted Eris versus Rudy, in the tent, right? That's kind of the situation. And Rudy got mid-diffed by lusted Eris. You know what I'm saying? In the end, is this a case of Rudy manipulating Eris or Eris manipulating Rudy, or maybe it's a normal case of a consenting relationship? I don't know, consent's a crazy word to throw because she's 15. And so it's like, can she even consent, right? But it's like, Where am I? Looking. Maybe it's not working about Rudy manipulating Eris or Eris manipulating Rudy. It's like Eris is manipulating Rudy, but she's doing so after with so much trauma and crazy stuff going on in her life that it's like manipulating is a word that doesn't quite fit. So I don't know, where it's like because manipulating has like a connotation of like, oh, I planned this and I'm like twisting it and I'm like twisting it to how I want it kind of thing, and this is more, it's like a very intentional thing. But for Eris, I feel like it's like a crazy thing just happened. This is my rebound. This is my this is like a woo kind of thing, right? In which case manipulating is like too cold of a term, or I think it was a lot more like heat of the moment, like high emotions, like unsure of what's going on, like kind of like trying to find grounding in the world kind of thing. In which case, Rudy not realizing that or ignoring that, right? Kind of part of this, like, it might lead to a lot of regrets in strained relationship. Rudy not realizing / ignoring that as part of my big list of my list of questions is where it's like, okay, then we can blame Rudy for not realizing that or whatever. Unless it's really that unfathomable to him that he just is to put it together, which I would hope that that's not the case. Man, it's making me doubt, this show is making me doubt how emotionally competent are people, period. Is it really just the case that, if 100 people were in this situation, how many people would not try to talk Eris down, would not try to be like, hey, Eris, this is not the time for this kind of thing, like I'm here for you in any way you need, except for something that I think could really damage our our lives. Like, this is not the time for a sexual thing, but I am here for you emotionally and mentally. And how many people would even do that? In the real world, if I put 100 random people in a room with Eris, with given all the context, I go before all this mess, I would think a lot would resist and be able to navigate that situation, but it's maybe people are just so stupid and emotionally have no idea what's going on. In which case, it's I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because guys, this is so sad. Apparently, refreshing the comment section also deletes the draft of your comment. I'll say it real quick. I'll say it every time this happens. This happens to people all the time. They'll post a comment and then YouTube will delete it or something, or there'll be a spoiler and a bot will delete it, or refresh will delete it. Always just write your comments in a Google Doc in a separate document and copy paste them over. Do not trust YouTube. But I appreciate the comment. We love a first-time commenter. This is also so funny to me. So, let me see. Rudy's put in some effort trying to not take advantage of Eris in this situation. I'd agree. Be it out of genuine concern for her because of her bond, his developing sense of morality, or a mix of both. Good on him for trying at least. Agreed. Or we could also say genuine concern for her, developing sense of morality, or another option, which I've talked about, is the frick, where am I? Genuine concern for the bond, developing sense of morality, or his own anxieties with having sex, being a virgin, all those insecurities coming up, right? That's another reason that he could be resistant, right? Another, unfortunately, he didn't realize he himself was in a bad spot mentally. He didn't have the moral character to stand his ground and refuse her, so he's still afraid to do it when he recognizes as a thing, so he still has to work on that. Agreed. Shake the hand. Makes me wonder whether his close bond with Eris made him more or less willing to go along with it, because on one hand his concern for her well-being is part of what stopped him at start, but it's also really hard to say no when the person you like is pushing like that. Complicated interpersonal relationship. It's just a mess, man. I think both. Interesting to hear your ideas on how Rudy would process all this. Yeah, I think, because you kind of go on and say, that he'll fall back into self-doubt and blame. I do think that I don't even know if he'll become spiteful or angry anymore. I'm expecting a big character change out of all this stuff from both of the characters, and I'm starting to think that it's going in different directions than I would have hypothesized, right? Such as, this kind of stuff, right? Paul, or, just given what we already know about them. But I do think that your read is not only is it kind of what happened, but I think it's also probably what's going to happen further. I don't know because you say if he has the confidence for it or something. Which I think he liked. Blaming Eris or getting angry at her for leaving him this would require a stance of what did I do wrong, or even I don't know what I did wrong, why did you do that to me, which I think he lacks the confidence and self-esteem for. That's a really good point, and I agree with you. It makes me curious, other than... I'm really excited to see where it goes in season 2. I'm really excited to see where it goes in season 2. That's kind of where I'm at there. So yeah, good stuff there. And then influenced by own self-experiences of self-loathing, and such, like personal biases kind of thing. I mean, everyone's going to walk into every story with personal biases. I think that's super normal, and recognizing it's there is a very intelligent thing to do. I mean, I got a ton of biases walking into all the stuff I watch, you know. That's just reality. I think everyone has, you know, it's very hard to get more and more objective. It's very hard to do that. It's a very, you know, it takes a lot of work. And then I very appreciate the nice thing. Little hug, very, very nice hug. Forgot how I ended this comment before the draft got deleted. Back up your logs. But no, I do really appreciate. First commenter, Pog. Finally watched the video, find it uncomfortable. I think it's so much better than done in other anime. Mineta example is funny. Freaking Mineta, bro. The thing is, like, better is interesting. It's very different. It's very, very different. Because it's not being played. You're right. Like, it's not being played for laughs. It's being played very seriously. Not sexy, not funny, not as a joke. Gut punches, right? And when you're taking it to a serious place, you gotta do it justice. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. He doesn't become a normal kid. He doesn't become a Chad. Nothing. He gets some and then is left alone for the first time in 7 years. So yeah, for how it's hit Rudy, I really like how it's hit Rudy. It feels like deserved in a sense of like, yeah, like if you're gonna, like in a sense of like, you had a big interpersonal change. You had sex with somebody that was in a situation with a lot of upheaval and change incoming. So for you to have done something that I think is a pretty big interpersonal relationship risk and then have been punished for it makes a lot of sense. Like, it is what it is. I'm just, how the story uses it with Eris, I'm going to be very intrigued on. So I'm really excited. Man, how is Eris and Rudy ever going to meet again? Is it really, that's our pairing? Or is Rudy going to go like, hey, Sophie girl, I got dumped by my ex. Damn, you know, hey, Roxy girl, got dumped by my ex. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, you know? Are we gonna go? It's gonna go. Hey, go with Roxy. Roxy is just waiting. Roxy has a very like, I'm just waiting for my knight in shining armor kind of thing. Like, hey, Rudy, that seems wholesome and non-complicated. Well, but the whole mentor thing's kind of weird. But like, that has at least some. Because I don't know, go get with Roxy or something. I don't know. Came across your stuff, binge the rest of your series. I'm a big fan of long discussions. Shake the hand. Hey, thank you. This is funny. Now I'm a massive slut for living vicariously through other people's MT reactions. So funny. But yeah, I appreciate the support. We read that. Really appreciate, but really dislike Eris for what she did. However, the way she told this to Rudy was just awful. Girls should talk to him properly. True. But it's like we both of them should have engaged in a freaking communications dialogue, but they're almost traumatized and emotionally immature, so they don't. And so it's like, guys, it's like, dude, it's like I'm watching a car crash in slow motion. It's like, guys, we should have hit the brakes 20 miles ago, bro. We should have hit the brakes. We're running red lights. We're running so many red lights. Pump the brakes, man. But it's like they don't know how to drive, I guess. It's like, guys, we need to learn how to drive. Can we learn how to drive? Learn how to drive before you get in the car. Go to driving school. I wonder why somebody can let go if he's an adult argument. It's really hard to understand. Is it really that hard to understand Reese as a character, what he did, the story? It makes things clear for no reason at all. Good video. Yeah, I appreciate good video. Like, I mean, it's important. It's like, it's important, but there's so much other stuff. Like I understand, like a lot of people like latch onto this. I'd much rather focus on the trauma stuff that I keep ranting about. Where like even if they were both like 20 years old, you know, and there were no issues there, like even in that situation, I think it would still be a misplay, right? So this just makes it even worse for me. But that's like an entire thing that I don't really like to. I don't know. I'm kind of sick of talking about that one. So it is important though if we're gonna analyze the story. But I don't know. We've talked about it a lot before. I don't want to talk about it right now. Eris point of view. Bor can't even nap him where he's traumatized. I feel it's so real. Yeah, we're taking a breather for the second season. Thumbnail. Here it is. Here's that other NNTR comment. It was on a different. I not intend to be disrespectful, but I feel like Pink got NTR'd by this episode in this chat. It's just funny. It's just funny. Just the idea of NTR'd as a parent. It's like that's just such an insane thing to say. It's just so funny to me. It's just, man really thought he was Kurokin's thumbnail. We're just watching whatever version's gonna be out. I'll talk in the Discord, because I didn't know that was a thing until I started reading these comments. Richard got mad because Rudy did not listen to him. How much? I feel like, well, he should have done more. I feel like I don't even remember that well. Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just stupid and forgot. LMAO. It's just LMAO. Real. And then so missing legs here. Okay, so I was about to write a comment. Defending this as maybe not good, but also not that bad. But holy, what the fuck? No, this is bad. This is worse than I remembered. Much worse. I completely forgot about the circumstances. This would be bad if she was unambiguously not a child. This would be bad even if she was unambiguously not a child, even like the relationship background, which I was about to defend. This on the level of discussing as far as what he was about to do in episode 8. She was in a vulnerable place looking for comfort and turned to sex out of desperation. Rudy took advantage of it. This is the worst kind of consent, a consent out of defeat. Rudy, for God's sake, you don't engage with it. You shut it down and do something to actually help you through the hard time. If that happened and I really hoped to cope with the loss, I'd be so fine with them going at it. But this, it goes beyond the age of consent. There's a personally defining moment in that Rudy blundered. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. Just this part. It's just like, they both suck. Eris, but I kind of see why they suck, but I don't know, if it's enough. It's just this is so crazy. I think this is what the thing, Rudy helped her cope with the loss, because instead of them coping with the loss at all, they have sex and then she leaves before any communication happens, right? So Rudy not helping her cope at all, in the same way that she helped him and comforted him with the Paul thing, because he's had a lot of emotional conversations with people throughout the season. It's not like he's a complete emotional, zero experience Andy. No, he's got some stuff in the tank. And, we've seen him, reflecting on a lot of stuff from his Earth life, right? Of just, man, people did reach out to me, that kind of stuff. And that's happening, that happened in episode 23 a lot, which was right after this. But, how old is he? 12? No, she's 15. He's 13. Because I think it's a 2-year gap. 13 years is a long time, especially when he's having a lot of inner conflict about, his sexual actions and, I think parsing through a lot of self-hatred and stuff. So for him to not try to comfort her, and in a way that is, I think, a lot better, and instead to comfort her in a way that is what she asked for, but I don't think what was good for her, right? I think it's just man, it's just you don't engage with it, right? And I'm either disappointed in Rudy or disappointed in humanity, and I don't know which, right? Am I disappointed in Rudy because I think this is because it's the question of, am I disappointed in Rudy because I think people it's common sense and it's he's truly making massive misplays that he should know better? Am I disappointed in him for that? Or is it less common sense than I thought to not engage with this? And people just as a whole are worse than I thought, That's kind of the question. So, I don't know. Definitely not the behavior of someone who has coped with a loss. This is the behavior of someone who has been taught to say this stuff she has. Stuff yeah, no, I've been preparing for death my whole life, so I'm more or less over it. I mean, do I need to say something? Yes, there are many ways to cope with loss, and even if there are people who could take it like that, we know Eris, we've been with her pretty much all season, and we know she's not one of them. There's a drastic personality change for her. And that's kind of the thing I was talking about a little bit of with my sheet. Or we've seen her go for comfort before, crying to Rudy. We've seen her loud, temper, all these things, and it's something that she's been working on and bringing back. But for her to shut everyone out and then show up again, completely default on emotions, and then go to Rudy and say, let's sleep together, that to me is this is way different than we usually see her, which means that this is a very precarious situation. Yeah. On a positive note, is a really well done moment that is in character. I wouldn't say it's fair to expect Rudy to realize all this, and the moment doesn't seem to be portrayed as a positive thing, I hope. It seems what the show is saying is that he lost her for now because of that shitty decision, which, if it is the case, is a good development in the show itself. I don't know if he even lost her because of the decision to have sex. I think she was leaving no matter what, right? Because her leaving wasn't... it was like a goodbye present, and a goodbye gift to herself and to Rudy because she, thought that he wanted her that kind of thing. But it's she doesn't... As somebody that, when she's 12, is being told to go sleep with him, it's dude, you're not, this is why you're not ready to make these decisions, Eris. This is why. Eris, I need to sit down and have a coffee with you and be Eris, hey, let's have a discussion. Let's talk about how you feel about these topics, Let's just parse through some stuff that you don't talk to people about, Eris. I need to do that with Rudy and Eris. Both these people need to talk to people. Talk to me, man. Or talk to somebody more qualified than me. I'm not qualified. I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy. But yeah, I think she was gonna leave no matter what. But for Rudy to be hurt, like I'm glad Rudy has been hurt from this because I think he can grow from this. It's a vessel for change. But I think like Eris, I feel like has a lot of problems that are undercover and need to be developed, and we need to explore, please. I don't want the show to just be like, no, this was fine for her to do, or like she's fine and this did all. What would be the bad ending is all of this stuff about her as a 12-year-old getting her being told all, like being pushed all these sexual ideas on her, being told that only Rudy will ever love her, going 3 years, super being a lot more like codependent on Rudy, both in a violence, like in terms of like fighting, in terms of battle, in terms of blah blah blah, but also in terms of like relationship and sex and like romantic and blah blah blah. Like if none of that has any ramifications that are negative and like it's something that she grows out of, then I'm gonna be like really worried. But we'll see. Okay, last comment section. I won't. This is my own comment, bro. I like because we watched all three of these back to back. What a time that was. This is why we're making this video, by the way, so that we can kind of make up for the lack of discussion because, you know, there's a lot more to talk about, hence why I'm 3 hours into it now. But yeah. So I watched the episode at 90% speed. How did that happen? I just fat fingered a button, I guess. I didn't even notice though. That's crazy to me. That I watched it slower. Eris proves herself to be Rudy's absolute Giga Stacy husband. Strongest man in the world, hurt my boy, family died, better just become the strongest woman easy. The question is this good? This to me is escapism and is bad and it is what she's showing on the surface to try to feel strong because she's a mess underneath. But if she's truly fine, if she truly just takes that on the chin and truly just is like, F it, we ball, like, light work, no reaction, then she's less engaging to me as a character. That's the consequence. She can be that way, sure. Is that accurate to how humans function? If you're built different, I guess. Maybe, I guess some people out there might be like that. But, like, that's, like, I feel like that's not where the emotional, like, that to me is there could have been a lot of, like, really cool emotional, mental, like, drama and things to figure out. But if she just kind of easy claps and takes on the chin, then it feels like that could have happened and didn't, which then to me is like, okay, well, maybe Eris isn't that girl after all. You know what I'm saying? Eris, maybe you aren't that girl after all. Maybe you're not the S tier. Hey, it's okay. It's okay, Eris. We're about to go meet Sophie. Get replaced. It is what it is. You think I will invest my heart into a character, but that doesn't mean I won't drop them. Okay. Definitely episode that solidified Mushoku Tensei's all-time fave for me. Special shout for the direction episode. Real. Some of those crosscuts were crazy. That's the crazy thing. I was spent. I was tired. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm reeling. And then they hit me with like some of the crispest, most insane Rudy past life to current life crosscuts I've ever seen. And it's just like, fine, y'all can have that one. I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah. I understand you wanted to protect Eris' innocence, but sometimes she will have to grow up. Actually, she has grown and still growing. Most people are forced to mature fast in this world. Yeah, it's just like, man, the way she's growing up feels so painful, and I feel like it's not healthy for her. So it's not like again, if she grew, I feel like it's just I want her to grow up healthy. It's not I want her to not grow up, right? So I want her to grow up healthy and functioning and powerful and happy and emotionally strong, and then not just emotionally built different for no reason because she's just a mental giga chad, but emotionally strong because of her experiences and she's learned and blah blah blah. And thus ends season 1. Would love to see Taylor, so we're gonna do it. She did love Ghislaine a lot. She cared more way about Ghislaine than her family. I think Saros as well. I am starting to get the impression that she really didn't care about her parents as much as I would have originally expected. We are reading. Yeah, Eris has her own chapter. We read that. Crazy to see how highly everyone thinks of Rudy and how much everybody loves him. Yet no one sees how uncertain and fragile he is. They all just assume he can do everything and anything. Yeah, I mean that's just like a consequence of him being so powerful because of the reincarnation angle where he has all this knowledge. So he immediately jumps in and starts making moves. Incantationless casting comes from the isekai part as well because of his understanding of like physics or whatever it was. So like he comes in and he is so OP. Right, and everybody thinks incredibly highly of him, which is kind of something that, like, I'm like, guys, can we grow apart from Rudy a bit more? Because this is crazy, you know? Like, and I want people to see Rudy as less as an ultra giga chad, But because they are, and that's causing Rudy pain. So I guess it's cool that it's causing Rudy pain. Because the real issue is that everyone thinks of Rudy as this golden god, so they feel inferior to him and they are burdening him, so they end up distancing and hurting him way more. Real. No, definitely. I mean, at least with Eris, that's like exactly what happened. Don't write it off as Rudy being past Eris and loneliness. He simply found one reason to keep going. He's still ridiculously damaged mentally and will likely have severe trust issues for a long while. I'm hoping. I'm ready for that. I'm so ready for that. Give me consequence. I'm ready. I wish you took a break between the eps to go to them fully mental, prepared and not drained, as these are arguably the juiciest part of the show, but it is what it is. Yeah, and that's why we're doing this as a makeup, right? Because, yeah, it was just the point of just, like, F it, we ball. If they're gonna hurt me, then I'm just gonna fit it. We're just gonna take it and go, you know? But yeah, and also trying to rush to season 2. But yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. It is kind of fun. It's kind of fun in its own way. Of just, I think there's something really funny to me about just the pain and just like the like, look at this dude. Look at this dude. Like, look at him. He's so sad. It's so funny. Rudy ends up staying a bit longer with Alphonse and the refugees and ends up helping everyone rebuild with a lot of his OP magic. I love that. I wish we got to see that. I think that's even better. I think that's even better than him just running on his own. I'll give it a... what? Okay. Yeah, this is kind of getting into some of that as well. My sons are strong is a nice sentiment, but sometimes faith isn't enough. Roxy thought of the same of Rudius at the end, and we did see him back on his feet by himself, which is contrast how he's able to make use of the relationships he's formed, but his strength enough, we'll see. Eris reflection. She was only ever motivated by a drive to be someone who could confidently stand beside the people she liked, initially Galen and later Rudius. She never wanted to be good at swordplay for the sake of it, though violence always came easier, and she had a clear affinity for fighting, etc., etc., etc. Inferiority complex, 100 million %, 100 million %. I think in her mind, having sex was her way of forming an unbreakable bond before she left. Yeah, and as a spoken commitment, she just didn't realize Rudy wouldn't see it like that, just as she didn't think Rudius would misinterpret the letter she left. He's too much of a genius not to understand, right? Unlucky. She's afraid of getting abandoned and ends up abandoning a loved one. Suffice to say, I feel like she's just as mentally fragile as Rudius with her own abandonment fears she just handled differently. Right, and it's just like these fears to me make me so worried and scared, and I feel like are, given the situation, obvious, blah, blah, blah. I've said that a million times. But, hey, it is what it is. And hopefully these fears get explored in a really well thought out, interesting way. I mean, I'm just ready for that. I'm just ready for that, guys. I'm just ready for that. Reunited Paul. His son is strong, right? Meanwhile, he's drowning. Real. When you're in a state like that, it's almost impossible to see how it might enrich the lives of others, and to see there are others who may think the world of you. All these people would love to be there and help him, but it means more that he's able to do it on his own. Someone out there needs him. True. And that's a good. Him picking himself up for Zenith is real one behavior. Rudius gets huge points for that. Rudius gets points for that, okay? Yeah. I think in her mind, having sex was a way of forming an unbreakable bond before she left. Like, I think that's true. I think that is true. But the lack of communication, of course, bit everyone after she left, or bit Rudy after she left. Forming an unbreakable bond before she left. Yeah, it's just... You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a crazy way to be thinking of sex and, like, all these things. It's just like, man, I don't think you're ready, Eris. I don't think you're ready. Season 2 is hyped. Yes. Should be exciting. Isn't that insane? Rudius for an entire season desired sex, and we finally achieved it. It just got him depressed. In MT, Mushoku is about failing until you grow up, and this episode is a prime example. Self-improvement isn't all rainbows and sunshine. You gotta have the courage to overcome your demons too. Yep. True. If somebody posts this, I'm gonna read it. I'm not gonna go hunt it down. So, again, the draft's getting deleted is so sad. This is true. I like what you say here of like it's more of a fact that he shouldn't like the regressing because we're seeing him regress. And now it's a constant fight. It's a constant fight. Right here. In cases like Rudius, it's more like a constant struggle to keep that faith in people and himself, and that if someone throws him off, he won't be able to fight back against the belief that he is hopeless and incapable of change. Yeah, change is a constant battle. Like you will slip back, you will move forward, right? And it's like that thing. It reminds me of that thing I said at the beginning, because in reference to the Eris and Rudy with the sex, right? I said this at the beginning of the show, I'm pretty sure. I am here for you to slip and pick yourself up and pick yourself up. But if your slips start hurting the people around you, then I don't know if I can keep giving you that branch. I don't know if I can keep forgiving you. If Rudy slipping is hurting, and it was in context to Sylphie when I was saying it because she was like 6. But the point still stands with Eris. If him letting this happen hurts Eris, which I feel like it would, right? So to see her like completely fine with it is making me like, huh? And it's making me rethink Eris a lot, right? Because I'm like, this has got to have some crazy ramifications down the line, right? Which is why, yeah, so much of how I feel about this is going to be how it's dealt with down the line. Yeah. So, whew, agreed though with the change part. I forget what most of it were about, but what's your opinion on people like Earth Deus, Rudy when he was back on Earth? Negative. Listen, I don't want to get too personal about it because I don't like getting personal. Okay, we're here to watch the show and enjoy. Blah blah blah. I've been in bad situations and I've had to grow and change too, and like, been there, done that. And I know it's like different for everybody, right? So it's not like I've done it, you should just do it to forehead, right? But it's like, dude, you have the power to change, and that is beautiful and that is wonderful. So let's make it happen, man. So let's make it happen. You know what I'm saying? I believe in the power so much. So to see people stagnate and it's like you lead a horse to water, but it won't drink kind of thing. To see people that have people reaching out to them and have change incoming, but they just refuse to change and they're a burden on the people around them. It's just like, you know what? F you. We don't have the time. If you are a person that is not helping people and you're like a waste or whatever, and you're just like, you know, and you're cranking it or whatever. If you're doing all that nonsense and you're just a burden on the people around you because somebody's paying to keep the lights on, someone's paying for the food there. If you are just wasting your life and being a leech on the people around you, and you don't change when people try to help you change, then guess what? Get kicked to the streets. Like you are a net negative on the world. But that doesn't mean you have to stay that way. And I'm so let's change. We will pull you in. But if you're unbudging, then F it. I don't care about you. Go away, right? That's my opinion on people like Earth Deus. So like, you can change. I believe in you. So be a thirsty horse. Be a thirsty horse, right? I don't want to lead you to water and not get anything. Take a slurp. Just slurp. In any case, I'm looking forward to the discussions. It should be good. It'd be agree this. We did that. Yes, did that as well. Pog, basically pog. Shake the hand. Continue. This I like. This I like a lot. Right here. This actually hit different. The two right here. First off, really, I really like this comment. Because let me just read it, right? And oh boy, I don't regret it, but writing it was painful to the point that I took a 2-week break from Mushoku Tensei to give me time to recover from the emotional gut punch I'd given myself. And then later here, sorry if this is a rambly mess, but as you can see, it's a very personal show for me, and I had a lot I wanted to say about it. Kind of put me on a tailspin of emotions. Writing this took 3+ hours. Now if I can just find a way to verbalize it to the people in my life without turning into a sobbing mess again. That just shows how powerful fiction and media can be. And so like, in that way, I'm always here for it, right? I love that. And I really appreciate like the sharing of that. I don't know. I just think that's pretty powerful. But yeah, here these two lines of people change. It was like the first line, and then people can't just change. Oh, because it's like people change. It's like yes, but then we're tempering it back to realism with people can't just change. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we have the two extremes, right? Of like, oh, people change, just change forehead, and then we have the other extreme of people don't change. People are stuck. People are, you know, whatever. And I think the reality of the situation is it's in the middle, right? People can change, but it's not just easy clap change. Like it's smacking into a wall. It's man is both the marble and the sculptor. If you've heard that thing before, of like a marble sculptor, and you like, you know, it's a process, and it's slipping and it's slipping and it's pain and it's pain and it's pain, right? Yeah. And I like all this as well. And like this kind of thing of like, in 20 years of that kind of content will F you up in ways I can scarcely imagine. The like stuff he was like cranking into, right? And the reason I can even kind of understand it is because when the anime first aired, I was like 9 to 10 years away from becoming pre-Rudy, and that thought scared me half to death. But seeing Rudy taking that first step gave me just the smallest sliver of hope, and it was enough to jumpstart my own way too slow IMO change. And that's what the power of the story can be. And I love that, and that's valuable. But since we're dealing with such risky things, it can also go in places that I wouldn't want it to go. But this is why I'm even watching the show, and this is why I'm willing to freaking try to figure out why Eris, my beloved, and like try to get into all this stuff that's like painful, and like, because dude, I'm laying in bed last night for 2 hours staring at my ceiling, thinking about Eris and thinking about Rudy, dude. There's a reason that like I care about this stuff. It's because of stuff like this, you know. So I love that. Yeah. Super true though. Super true. I like this as well. What is this? Yeah, and I already talked about this of like There's a difference between those who love MT and think Rudy and Eris are fine together. Because I think the point is, even if the show, I don't know how much the show, hopefully will like broadcast it, you know, and it like is showing it, because like a lot of people have a lot of different takes on this, right? Which gets me worried. But I think the point is that there are like look at all these issues that happen here. Look at all these issues and pains and such. That's why, like, that should be why MT is good, because of all the issues and the intro and the crazy like dissections of these characters and the themes and all that kind of stuff, right? But I just feel like maybe some aspects of the relationship have issues. Right, exactly. And both that Rudy made some mistakes that way, including episode 22. Agree. You may have some hangups about Rudy having past life memories and some mistakes. We might want him to mature and grow up a little more before making these tough decisions. It's always going to be awkward regardless for us. But we can get behind the characters, but we can still get behind the characters and love the series, even root for Rudy, etc. I hope that he gets better. I would argue he already is close to who he needs to become. Rudy does not need to improve too much anymore. At least that's my opinion. He's almost where he needs to be. I have very high bars for people that some people might consider unrealistic, right? I'm and I'll say it again, like I have extremely high bars for everyone, which I think is most people maybe will never reach, but that's just it's a very striving mindset. So my personal like philosophy and bias means that I don't think that he is close to who he needs to become, because I think you can always become better, right? But he's definitely moving forward, I think. I think this is a step back for sure, but yeah, and I think this is a good mindset of like, we love it for getting into this crazy stuff, not be, you know, but like, let's realize how crazy a lot of this stuff is, instead of just being like, oh, it's fine and y'all are over it. No, like, there's some crazy stuff here, man. Other people in the camp where Rudy can and never should feel sorry for everyone. He has to see himself as a villain if he does. And even if Rudy and Eris wait until 30s, 40s to become a couple, it would never be late enough. Like, yeah, it's just such a balancing act. Like, that's too... like you can get extreme on both angles, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Ooh, video essay style or podcast style. That could be fun to stuff. I need to make a video essay or something. That'd be fine. So this is a... comment, I think it was copy paste, right? Put this channel on my playlist to watch later. Hey, shake the hands. My comment here won't contain spoilers, so I will pretend I only know up to 2 or 3. Wait, sorry. This is a general comment. Anyone can skip it if they're not interested. Yeah. So this is coming from somebody that watched 1 minute of the video. Which, hey, I appreciate the comment, right? Appreciate the comment still. There was some stuff in here. Boom. I believe it was a little too early, but I don't blame either of them for going forward with it. The sex in itself was never the issue. Eris likely would have left the same kind of note and disparity even if Rudy declined. If they'd stayed together after making love, then I think it would have been a healthy relationship. I don't think so, because of the parental trauma and because she's never even considered being with anybody except for Rudy, because she was baked into a child that's the only person who loves her, because it's like, dude, she was told like nobody will love you except Rudy because you suck. Like low key, you know what I'm saying? So that makes me, that like the insecurities and like the images that could come out of that. So I don't think it would have been a healthy relationship because of all the trauma. Yeah. But like if they spent like what are they, 15, 13, give it like 6 more years or something, and they communicate properly, then it would be a way different situation that I would be more on board with, right? Yeah. Rudy's not perfect, but I'm arguing and saying all this to drive him home. Yeah, Rudy still would have cared for her. Generally, Rudy's humble and generally cares for people more and more so as time goes on. Yeah, he's kind of viewed the world as game. Rudy's not perfect, but I'm arguing and saying all... Yeah, like, Rudy has a lot of good. Rudy has a lot of good in him. For sure. I agree. Let's maximize it. Let's keep going, Rudy. More. What's this kind of stuff? This was a kind of an interesting thing I didn't think about, of like if Rudy didn't form connections with people because of like the kind of groomer ideas or that kind of stuff, like how healthy would that have been? Like how toxic and mentally healthy do you think it would be to deny your own feelings of love and connection? And to view yourself as a groomer to those around you. Like, there are ways to connect with people that aren't sexual and grooming type, right? And, you know, like, this isn't the only way to connect with somebody, but also, it's such a balancing act, right? Which is why it's, like, such a, you know what I'm saying? Rudy would be like, oh, with my partner, I can't be around anyone my own age. Like, you can be, you just have to be more careful, right? Girls who fall for me are being manipulated. I need to suppress my own feelings and deny my genuine love and connection. It's just like you shouldn't be falling in love with like a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, right? Like right? Like love in like a sexual romantic sense, you know? That, because that's like you, like, that's what I would say, but also, if you do, what do you do about it? Because Rudy definitely has, so like, what should he do about that? Not do anything stupid. like I feel like waiting till he was 15, she would have been 17. Like, that's like a compromise that I don't know like how I feel about, but it's like, Rudy, I can appreciate the gesture, we can work with that. Like, that's work with itable, you know? 15 and 17, it's like not great, and I would still rather it was longer, but you know, and we were resolved for that. Ideally it would be like 2-3 years longer at minimum, but you know, yeah, and in that way it was like they were, yeah, like, I don't know, because like seeing himself as like a, like, not talking to anyone and completely shutting himself out would not be good for his development, but understanding that is a lot more to human relations than like sex, right, is so important. That's something he has gotten to do a lot. So it's crazy. It's like sex isn't the end all be all, right? Which is something that I feel like he's now kind of hopefully learning of, like, oh wow, like it was all that and that was it, and now I'm in pain again. So even then, but at the same time, it is important and like a big deal, right? Because you can make babies. Boom. A new gray rat has spawned. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like, and then if we go into like the kid biology and that kind of thing, I would argue that Rudy's more of a kid than he ever was an adult. I would argue that Rudy is more of a kid than he ever was an adult. Not only did he not properly... Oh yeah, this is like... So yeah, this is getting to like his current biology as a kid, plus trauma from the last life, etc, etc, etc. We've talked about that before. I don't know if I'm trying to get back into that again. Again, people try to protect Eris by saying Rudy should never act on feelings or even be near her, as he is grooming her, and to a degree he is. And in our world, grooming happens in various relationships, if you want to call that. Absolutely, even between full-grown adults, power dynamics exist. Okay, well, grooming as a term is used for, like, it's different than, like, okay, yeah, it can happen with full-grown adults. I don't know. I don't know the definition of grooming that well. Yeah, let me real quick define grooming to freaking respond to talk about anime. That's crazy that this is where we're at. But there's a slur of people, there's a slur of possible issues we have to balance. No one's perfect, no relationship is perfect, but you're not protecting Eris by calling Rudy a P-word or any nonsense like that. But like, okay, just because, and he is, and to a degree he is, yeah. It's just that's just a massive pill to swallow. I feel like I'm choking on the pill. I feel like I've been choking down a pill for like the last 5 days of my life. I feel like I've been choking on this pill, you know? And I'm like, maybe I don't want to swallow. Maybe I can give it a yeah, what flavoring is up? You know what I'm saying? That's what I've been doing for the last 5 days of my life with the show. And then what? You're at best dooming Eris to mental issues when the person she falls for pushes her away. Like, this I would disagree. Like, I think there are some points here, especially with the biology stuff, like, that's something to keep in mind. But it's also such a mess because there's literally no real life precedent. Like, it's literally, like, I'm not super, like, you know, it's like, his body chemistry and brain is actually a child's. Like, yes, but it also sometimes isn't, because he just spawns in and is a full-grown Giga Chad adult in a lot of ways. So it's like he's influenced by, like, hormones and such. You know, that's like it's like so fuzzy to me. It's just so fuzzy to me. So I try not to, like, get into it a lot. But there are, like, a lot of important things here. Like, I don't want to dismiss all this, right? This is something I will not, that I, like, you're at best dooming Eris to mental issues and the person she falls for pushes her away. I disagree with that. Because pushing her, not having sex does not equate pushing her away, right? If that's what you mean. If you mean, like, literally him saying, no, and leave my tent, like, yeah, that would not be good either, right? But what he should have done, and I think is feasible for him to have done, is what she did for him, with previews with Paul, of just like, okay, no, like, I want to talk to you, like, yes, I'm into you, Eris, and I will tell you it, and like, be genuine. Just be genuine and communicate. Just be genuine and communicate instead of having sex when y'all are on different pages. Y'all are in different books. You're not even in the same books. You know, different page, no, different book. Okay? So don't have sex when you're in different books. Get your pages aligned, right? Comfort her. Be there for her when her parents have just lost, right? Instead of just having sex, not talking about it, and then she's gone, right? So I think he could have not pushed her away, but also not had sex, and it was like the best move, and I think that is feasible for him to have done, but he didn't because he gave into his desire to have sex, because she started hitting him with the meow meow kitten, started purring, okay? She started purring, and that made him crumple. Like, it is what it is. I'm not that surprised, but at the same, like we knew this was coming the entire time, bro. But yeah, there are persons who expect Eris and Rudy to never get together, not even when they are older. My question is, who should Eris go and date or fall in love with? Anyone else. She's never had a chance to get with anyone else. She's never even been able to consider with anybody else, post being 12, right? Because like previously, when she's being courted by like other 11-year-olds, like, okay, as if she has any idea what she wants in a relationship when she's 11, right? And so for it to be baked into her head when she's 12, like, no, you're only gonna love Rudy, or Rudy's the only one that's gonna love you. Like, that's the issue. Like, who should she go and date and fall in love with? Anyone. Go explore. The world is your oyster, Eris. Go fall in love. Do your thing, right? Like, and it can be with Rudy if it's healthy and is communicated, and we actually parse through all this nonsense, which we have not. Yeah. Eris does love Rudy. It's true. And Rudy does love Eris, but refuses to accept due to the fact that he was an in his past life. Refuses to accept. He refuses to consummate it through sex up until this point. That love and sex aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Is it somehow wrong for either of them to act on their genuine feelings? If you're okay, like sometimes it is yes. Sometimes it is yes. If your genuine feeling is a crime, then it's wrong to enact on it, right? But like, you know what I'm saying? So like, is it somehow wrong for either of them? Like, but for Rudy and Eris specifically, I would say yes, because they're too young and emotionally immature to do this in a healthy way, and it's going to damage them. It would make sense to damage them, considering all the stuff that I've yacked about. But like, I think that's also the point of the story, and is the vessel for a lot of change, hopefully. So like, it doesn't mean that we're bad, that you're a bad person for liking the show. It doesn't mean that, right? It just means that that's what I think the show's trying to do, or at least I'm using the show that's the way the show can be used, you know? Eris is, and then this I disagree with. I just want to, like there are a lot of points I agree with. I'm not trying to like attack the comment, right? But Eris has lived life and death battles. She's likely emotionally and mentally mature as a woman of their 20s in our world, and she's an adult in the MT world. Like, no, I disagree with that, right? That like living life and death battles doesn't make you emotionally and mentally mature. Like, I don't see the connection there, right? Maybe it does, but I don't see the connection. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Cause like, yeah. Emotionally and mentally, like she's like throwing tantrums. She was an emotional mess for so long, and she's grown from that. But like, I would not nearly call her a woman in 20s in our world. I would not nearly put her as that emotionally or mentally mature. Am I overestimating how mature, emotionally and mentally mature women in their 20s are in this world? I don't think so. But yeah, it's like, she's likely emotionally and mentally mature as a woman in their 20s. That doesn't mean as a 15-year-old girl that like that's like saying like, oh, you're so mature for your age, so it's not pedophilia. You know what I mean? Like that. Like I don't like that argument, and I don't think it fits. But yeah. Even by our world standards, it's not ridiculous for a couple who have been through what Eris and Rudy to fall in love and want to start a family. Who should Eris and Rudy go with? I mean, like Eris hasn't had the chance to go with anybody else. And then Rudy has, like, Roxy or Sophie or, like, whatever. Like, he's been interested in other people. I think they both have a healthy relationship given their circumstances. You would basically ruin like, you're not ruining two lives by them saying, like, hey, let's not have sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, for them to deny each other completely and be like, I'm not speaking to you anymore. Like, you know, that's different. That's different. I can hear what you mean with if you mean that extreme of a take. That's kind of the thing. Like, yeah, I'm like going for like, I'm trying to aim for such a middle ground with a lot of these things. And so like whenever I feel like there's like this thing where like I try to aim for a middle ground and then everybody thinks of like, not necessarily, I'm not trying to attack comments, right? Because especially with this one, this is, I've seen 1 minute of the video, right? So like, I'm, you know, like let's be aware of that. But like I feel like a lot of people are used to arguing with like the polar extremes of each side. So when I'm coming in, it's like the protest thing outside about, there's two protests attacking each other with pitchforks. And I'm walking down the middle like, hey guys, what show are we watching? Wham! Like, holy crap. Like, if Rudy said, listen, I can't be with you, Eris would be crushed and never experience a proper relationship of any kind. Like, she already can't, like, she's already so hoed, so, I don't agree with this. I think that's too extreme. If Rudy sent Eris away or never let himself develop feelings for her in the first place and let her, he's on Sonny Brie used as political and doomed to a life political wife, would he ever forgive himself? Like, we don't know what would happen. We don't know what happened. If we need to get, like, it just wasn't the time. I don't think it was the time. I don't think it was the time. What am I trying? I think that making Love in episode 2 is possibly the right choice. It would not have been perfect. They might have wanted to wait a little bit longer. But like I said in the beginning, I don't think everyone would have waited much longer. And I think I also argued that even if they never made love, what happens may have been the same or worse. But really, when it comes down to it, at this point in the series, I don't see any issues whatsoever anymore with Rudy being with anyone who has genuine feelings for him. Rudy is not a monster. If his inner thoughts were not of genuine care or worry, and he was like Pax, then I would agree. I have an edit. I was advised to copy my secondary comment of this main one. Okay, I heard. So, yeah, like, I don't think the sex was the right choice at all. I would disagree with that. I think they can still have a very powerful emotional moment together where they parse through what happened without complifying their relationship even more with sex, right? Especially considering this being something baked into her when she was 12. I disagree with that, right? It would not have been perfect. They might have wanted to wait a little bit longer. I think they need to wait a good amount longer, right? At least to communicate. Like, it's not even about a time thing. Like it's about a time thing to some degree, but it's also about let's communicate these things and build up to things that can be big. Like, imagine if Eris is pregnant. That would be crazy, you know? Of just, like, she just comes back and is like, yo, Rudy, hey, I got another gray rat in the tank right here. What do you think of that? Like, that would be so insane for us to deal with, right? And then on the facts of, like, who else would they love? Like, Rudy has not been able to explore that with other people, and neither has Eris, right? Like, I guess Rudy's kind of thought of, like, kind of with Sylphie, but then, you know, that kind of got interrupted with the Paul stuff, and then kind of with, you know, maybe with Roxy one day. Roxy is literally thinking about getting with Rudy a little bit. Like, she's fantasizing, like with the whole, like, knight in armor kind of thing. Like, that there's kind of, like, some stuff going on there. So, like, there are options for Rudy. Like, we have a bunch of characters that are, like, targets for Rudy. And then for Eris, she hasn't had the chance because the only other time she had a chance was when she was 11 in a political stuff. So she hasn't actually had the chance to fall in love other than with Rudy, which was something baked into her by her parents when she was 12. So I disagree with that. But on a lot of these other points, there is some stuff in here for sure. Blah, blah, blah. Continuing. And then I think the stuff was edited in that would need to be edited. I try not to read replies too much because there might be spoilers in there. I just try to usually keep it. I'm good on this stuff. I'm curious why. Like, the kingdoms, Rudy was born there. Demon continent, Melos continent. That's where the stuff was. Boom, boom, boom. I think this came from me for a split second going, blessed child. Wait, what did I say? It was like, Zenith is a blessed child, and the Pope is coming, and no. That was just me tripping. It's fine. No, we're good. We're locked in. Yeah, the NTR thing. You got NTR'd from his daughter. Yeah. And then Rip phone and got Orsted. Okay, guys, we did it. It's time for the tier list. But that is... Listen, guys. We did it. That was the comments. I just love how I look. All three of them, I look so sad. Oh, guys. Okay. Tier list time. Yay, everybody, yay. Tier list time. Tier list. I'm going to make this quick. Because I'm freaking hungry and I've been talking and ranting and going off for, like, way too long. Literally, the sun has gone down. But it is what it is. This is going to be hard. This just, we're going to do best character for me personally. And then, like, really pogged. Alright. Meh. Barely remember you. I won't lie. Okay. Those are our things. So the criteria for this are roughly as follows. How much did you bring to the story? For me personally, this is tier lists are very subjective. Let me start off with that, right? You know, but how much did you bring to my enjoyment of the story? How much did you bring to the exploration of the themes of the story in a way that I thought was positive? Blah, 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 that kind of thing, right? So, like, yeah. Do we just do this in order? It is in alphabetical order. Let's just do it in alphabetical order. It's already recognized. So, Aisha. Aisha's interesting to me. At first, I didn't like Aisha that much. Like, I liked her fine. And then I feel like I tanked on her a little bit when I was like, bro, her mother really hoed her. But then when it's like, no, she's kind of playing Rudy to try to get a feel of how perverted he is and all that kind of stuff. I was like, dang, she's kind of a genius. So, I mean, I feel like she's like either top of all right or bottom of really pogged. It's hard when we're just at the start to get pieces on the board, you know? But she's like in here somewhere. Yeah, we're not gonna spend too long on these guys. Okay, Almonfi, Which one was Almanfi? What are the beast people? I think I just frick Almanfi. A control F in my notes. Yeah, like we're just gonna drop off ones. Alphonse, maybe like low, all right. Like he was good. He spat some bars. Talked some sense into Rudy. Was like, hey, people need your help. It's what it is. But at the end of the day, he just that's kind of all I remember him for. But he was good when he was there, so I appreciate that. But Chiro, I barely remember you. Are you one of the toughs? I don't know. The bartender. Hey, shout out to the bartender. Bartender coming in and be like, no, sit down and talk to Paul kind of thing. Like him giving his take. It's just based bartender is such a good trope to like show up. Like I'm here for that, you know? Is he better than Alphonse? I think let's give him better than Alphonse, but worse than Aisha. Because there's just something about the trope of based bartender that I love. Blaze, the pig guy, barely remember you. Blessed Child, meh. I don't really have a take on you. You didn't, I don't think you had a speak, did you have a single spoken line? You were just kind of there. Yeah, doing your thing. Hey, you could be cool in the future. No rats against you, but we're done. Cliff. I, like, didn't like you, but, like, I'm interested in what they're gonna do with you. I'll give you, like, maybe high meh. Like, I didn't quite enjoy your character and what you were doing. You were annoying. And I think the point was for you to be annoying. You want to marry Eris. I'm excited to see how they use you, because they could use you as a really, like, interesting villain in a sense in the future, because of the attachment to Eris and, like, that kind of stuff. Like, there is something to be done there. Like, compare that to Pax, who is literally just disgusting and horrible, who sucks. We'll give him an alright. Edna, Elena Lee. I don't remember you, Edna. Elena Lee's. Honestly, I don't get the... Elena Lee just has sex all the time. That's, like, all she's done. I don't think she's had, like, a single line other than, like, no, I'll go get some information, and then she just starts writing people in the alleyway. Like, okay, you're a hot elf girl, I guess, but I don't know. Eris. I don't know, bro. I don't know anymore, Eris. Eris, don't look at me. Eris, don't look at me like that. I don't know anymore. I don't know what to do with you. Are you S tier? I don't know. Are you Eris tier? Is there an Eris tier? Like, your parents, the trauma, are we gonna deal with it? Are we just gonna ignore it? She might slip in there. I'm just gonna put in really... I know it's crazy. We'll figure it out. We're still a work in progress. Gallius Cleaner. Evil smuggler guy. I don't know. Speak your truth. You had a cool fight scene. Geese. Geese is my boy. Geese is like bottom of... Just because his name is Geese. I'm gonna put him bottom of really... He's actually a sleeper. He's a sleeper pick. Ghislaine and I, she really pogged. She a low, really pogged. I've enjoyed her. She's been cool. Good fighting style. Good attitude. We're getting her backstory in the Beast Forest was cool. Like the feral child, but now she like studied under one of the Sword Kings or something. I could pull up the name if I cared. So that's like worth something. So like that's worth quite a bit. I like Eris for Ghislaine for that. So we'll put Ghislaine versus Geese versus Aisha. Ghislaine beats Aisha. Low key loses to Geese because I don't know. Geese goes just kind of a Giga Chad. Geese is kind of my thing. But no, I like Ghislaine quite a bit. This is like mid really pog tier. Ginger and Gustav and Gies. Okay, so Ginger York. I mean, you beat Gallius because your name's Ginger York, and I think it's a funny name, but you literally, like, you just have such a little relevance to anything that, like, what's up, Ginger York? All right, later, Ginger York. You know what I'm saying? Let me get more comfortable in my chair. I've been, like, sitting for so long. Okay. Gustavo. Freaking, you lose to Elena Lees, because at least Elena Lees has sex, and I don't know what you do, Gustav. Like, you said some lines, but, like, over the head. It's okay. Yes. I actually think there was some growth from Gies. I actually appreciated seeing more of Gies as time went on. I think he escapes meh and makes it into like high alright. Maybe like right under Aisha. I think right under Aisha's good. Yeah. Like I kind of didn't like Gies at first because I was like, dude, like why are you capturing Rudy like this, you know? But he ended up growing on me a bit more, so I can appreciate that. Hilda, rip. She, like, it's weird. At first, I thought she was going to be, like, an interesting character that would be, like, against Rudy, right? Like, an interesting, like, I don't like Rudy thing. And it's like, not that many characters don't like Rudy, you know? Like, most characters, when they meet Rudy, are like, yay, Rudy, right? I guess Norn is a fun example of somebody that, like, first doesn't like Rudy, and, like, that's kind of a fun thing. So, like, I appreciated, like, Hilda's like, oh, like, this is somebody that, like, we have to convince to like us. Like, that was interesting to me. But then she kind of randomly flipped the switch and was like, just kidding, I miss my kids, like, I adopt you now, like, get with my daughter. So it's like, oh, okay, interesting. I guess there was some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes, but not anything that I, like, really... I don't know, it didn't, like, fully hit for me. It was a little bit out of nowhere for Hilda, because I thought we were going to go somewhere, like, crazy with it, but then we didn't. Which is fine. It's fine. So, maybe, like, I honestly would give Cliff. I feel like Cliff is going to go somewhere cool, where Hilda, like, I thought was going to and then didn't. So I was like, or didn't go somewhere that I found was, like, that I was super interested in. So I'd give Cliff the win over Hilda, honestly. Keisha Rika, honestly, she's just a little menace. But I'm starting to just be like, fine. I'm like, okay, you know what? If you want to just get drunk and F it, we ball around the country giving random demon eyes to people, I can respect the grind set. You know what? You beat Gies. You lose to Aisha, but you beat Gies. I respect that enough. You're not like great, but like Keisha Rika, I think I can agree to disagree on a lot of the stuff with Keisha Rika. Just be like, you know what? Keisha Rika, speak your truth, live your life. I'm here for it. Kurt has a cool design. Kurt has a cool design. I think Kurt, as, like, a kid that's running a party of adventurers, is, like, interesting enough to me that, like, you beat Gies. Not quite as interesting to me as Aisha. Kurt versus Keisha Rika is a crazy question. Kurt versus Keisha Rika. You know what I'm saying? Keisha Rika at least is, like, more plot relevant. Kurt's just kind of speaking his truth. Are the Toughs gonna come back one day? That'd be cool. I don't know. Kurt kind of doesn't really get to do enough. I don't know. I think I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Keisha Rika taking the win. Lilia loses to Based Bartender, probably. She kind of didn't really do anything for me when we first met her, and then she seduces Paul. And then kind of just, like, devotes herself to Rudy. Which, I can see the train of why this has happened, but it's not a train that I was, like, it's not a roller coaster, it's more of a train, right? In the way that I at least experienced it. So the Based Bartender is, like, kind of, yeah. I think that's good. Man God. The thing with Man God is he's, like, annoying. But at least he's, like, he's important to the grand scheme of the world, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this lad, right? So I can appreciate how much he's brought to the mystique of the gods and all that stuff. I kind of want to give him, like, a right below Keisha Rika. You know what I'm saying? Like, how about, like, you know, pretty solid. Let's just say pretty solid. Yeah, instead of all right. I think pretty solid is a bit more accurate. It's like, okay, like, there's some pretty solid stuff going on here. And really probably just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think I like that more. Man God, or maybe like right above Keisha Rika but below Aisha. I think I like that more. Because he just had a lot of interesting stuff with the gods that made me really paranoid, and I appreciate that. And I feel like it will one day be revealed to be like, not necessarily the big bad guy, but it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we already got that with Orsted. Like, this guy's a big deal, so I'm like so here to watch where this goes. So like, that's cool, and I'm here for that. Minitona, I liked a lot. She was really cool. I probably liked her, like, right above Gies, or maybe right below Gies. She's just an example of, like, a type of character I really enjoy. Like, very similar to Eris in a lot of ways. Seeing her, like, trying to defend her squad when she's being imprisoned, and, like, she has no power, but she's, like, desperately, defiantly trying to, like, protect them. That's a good way to make me love your character. And, you know, just that kind of stuff. Her relationship with Eris, I thought was really, really sweet as well. That's a good example. Like, I like that so much, because I like seeing... I feel like so many of the characters are so... Like, so much of their character is based on the connection to Rudy. So for Eris and Minitona to have a relationship that had nothing to do with Rudy, I really liked. Because it was like, yes! We're developing side characters, like, even more, and giving them more depth and more of a web of relationships, other than just Rudy, right? So I really, really liked that. That was a really good play in my book for the show. Nanahoshi, you had like 3 speaking lines and you looked ominous. So I'll give you over Ginger for that. But like at least yeah, I don't know, can't really give you much. Nokopara, Get out of here. Like, I am not here for the horse guy. Like, oh, you have a family? You were so annoying to Rudy and squad. For you to just have a family is, like, that doesn't make me, like, all of a sudden pog my pants or anything. You better... No, the Blessed Child sweeps you and rolls you up and smokes you every day of the week. Nanahoshi versus Hilda. I don't know. Like, Nanahoshi seems interesting, but we haven't really gotten anything other than she is next to Oristed that makes me think that, so I'm gonna leave her in meh. Probably. She could very easily skyrocket if we get more information on her. Hey, I'll put her bottom of... Well, no, we're getting so disjointed. Like, I want her to be more of a clean wave. Norn? I liked Norn. Probably over Aisha. Probably over Aisha. Probably over Ghislaine, too. Ooh, maybe... Is it over... Norn over Geese? Wait. Norn is unstoppable. Norn sweeps. No. Norny. I liked Norny because... Like, the relationship to Paul was so sweet to me. So sweet. You know, trying to protect their dad that is so overwhelmed and emotionally wrought, but he still loves Norn, and Norn, you know, and that relationship is still there, but Norn's, like, protective of her father. That's so sweet. Her, like, trying to protect him from Rudius. Woo! Like, that's people, like, and I like it when Rudius gets pushed back from the people around him, because I find that to be interesting, and, like, you know, because usually we get a lot of, like, people that really like Rudius. So to see Norn, like, be like, I am not on the Rudius train. It was like, ooh, Norn, okay. Like, what is this gonna do, you know? So I'm gonna give Norn over Minitona. Yeah, Norn in second right now. I don't know. Norn versus Eris, I'm not gonna worry about yet. Orsted was scary. Orsted is, like, right there, I think. I think Orsted's scary, and he's interesting, and he's just, we walked into the final boss, or, like, one of the big 3 final bosses, like at the beginning of the campaign, you know? So just like, oh, we're so outmatched, and this guy is the move. He's got some cooking, you know? I really liked that. That was really interesting. And I just like that dynamic. And then he pulled it off. He was terrifying. I'll even put you over Minitona. I think I'm gonna give it to Norn, though, between the two. Paul, honestly, I really like where Paul went. Paul's character, you know what? That's probably the closest, the most the show has emotionally impacted me, other than Despair, and like the dealing with episode 22. Other than that, it was the Paul and Rudy reunion scene. That was very, very touching to me in a way I really, really liked. That was probably my favorite scene. Yeah, probably my favorite scene. So in that way, seeing Paul, like, really, like, you know, like, as much of a womanizer as he is, and, like, as horrible as that is, it's like, yeah, I really don't respect you in that regard. But to see you pushing yourself that far for your family, I love you for that. Like, that is such a good move, and it's like the depth of his character is shown really well. Paul versus Eris. There's a part of me that it has Paul over Eris. It's almost a screen time diff. Pax. Okay, Philip above Hilda. Above Cliff, above Alphonse, above Lilia. I feel like let me move Cliff up a little bit. I would say Philip gets to go right below the base bartender, just because him selling his daughter off like that, like to Rudius in a way, was like really worrying, and you know, I was like, dang, Philip, you're kind of crazy like that. And then the whole, like, a beast person thing that, like, him and Saros and just that part of the, you know, the Greerettes there, it's like, where were they getting these beast people from? You know, so it's just like, man, he's kind of a menace, it feels like, and I didn't feel like I got to see I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the Philip, mostly. Cliff, I'm going to actually move above Alphonse. He got such a cool intro, though. So I'm going to put Cliff, I think, right above the bartender. Yeah, right below the bartender, I think, is good. And I'm going to put Cliff above Philip, I think. Because I think Cliff could be interesting as, like, a spoiled brat that we can deal with later. I feel like there's some cool seeds sown there. Rokari and Rowan, I'm putting them next to each other, probably. Where, though? Let me just grab Rokari. Rokari probably above Rowan, because Rokari was kind of the bigger part of the conversation with Eris. I mean, with Roxy. So above Lilia for sure. Above Philip for sure. Probably above Cliff, Bartender, yes. Cured, Keisha, Rika. Probably loses to Man God. I like that. I like that for the two of them. Because they had a really, like, good touching scene with Roxy that I appreciated, and then were like nice and good information with you know with the squad, with the Rudy squad. So I can appreciate all that, but the man god, how much he brought to like the bigger lore and the deities of the story, like I think outshines it for me. And Aisha as a Giga Chad child, you know, is like, you know, above that. I feel like Aisha could be making moves in the future. Beats Keisha Rika though, because Keisha Rika is just kind of like a free spirit Giga demon king emperor or whatever. Roxy Raceway Roxy. That's not where she's at. I'm readjusting in my seat. Okay, Roxy definitely above Aisha. I would say above Ghislaine. I'd give her above Geese. I think loses to Minitona. I really liked Minitona. I think that she loses to Minitona because Minitona's that good, not because Roxy sucks. Like, let me be very clear. I do like Roxy quite a bit. I think what gets Roxy above the Geese and Ghislaine Aisha group is her talk with Rokari and Rowan, like her talk with her parents. That was very sweet. So I appreciate that, and there was some good stuff there. That's really what's got her this high. Wow, another big one. Rudius Grey Rat. The crux of the show. The person who I have suffered over and tried to suffer with. The man, the myth, the legend. What do I do with you, my little Grey Rat? It's just crazy. It's just, I feel like sometimes I'm screaming at you. Do I love to scream at you, though? I mean, it's something. That's strong emotional response, which gets points. As a main character, like a main character that, like, you know, deals with problems and hates themselves is interesting. I want to see even more and more of that. I want to see even more and more change, but you make me want to see things, so that's good. And I can appreciate that, right? Yeah. So, where do I put you? I just noticed there's Vieira, right? But there's not the other sister. Unless I... Vieira and... What are their names? Sorry, give me one. Vieira and Shiera. Yeah, there's no Shiera on this list. Huh. Yeah, because Vieira, the two sisters, remember, with Paul's group? Back to Rudius. Rudius... Who's Rudius? No, okay. Rudius, probably a little worse than Pax. No. Beats Hilda, sweep. Starting to slow down. Does he beat Roxy? I think he beats up to Geese without problem because of just... I mean, he's the main character. You almost like he's such a crux for the themes of the show because it's like all reflected out of him. That, like, you know, and it's a screen time diff kind of thing. He my issues with Rudy the character is sometimes for me it feels like he makes decisions that are just like almost just so inconceivable to me, right? That it's like it starts to get hard for me to be like oh, that was a mistake, that's feasible, and more like Rudy is like, I can't believe you did that, right? And his talk with Orsted is probably an example of that. The best example of that, probably. And then him, like, of course, molesting people is never a good move as well, and him thinking about grooming Sophie is not a good move either. But that's kind of also the point, right? Which is why he's even up here. I think for me, I could have him beat Roxy, because I like Roxy, but yeah. I think Rudius can beat Roxy. Minitona... Like this is the thing. Like, Minitona is a type of character that my heart and protective instinct adores. It's like, oh, my beloved, right? Like, immediately, like, that's a personality that, like, just, like, personal biases that cuts right into me, right? Rudius is a person that my personal biases don't go into that super. It's not like I am immediately, like, a huge Rudius fan, because of his personality, but Rudius as a character... Like, I've talked about so much and I've thought about so much that, like, I want to give him some credit for that, right? And so it's like we're clashing together two very different ways that I appreciate characters, and can appreciate what they bring to the story. So it gets really hard to rank it between Rudius and Minitona. I might want to get... Is Norn too high? No, Norn's Giga Woman. I like Norn. Her relationship with Paul was very, very touching. And, like, Rudius crying with Paul is so good. Man, it's just going to come down to Season 2 for me. I feel like Rudius as a character could move up to here. Probably like right here at best, depending on how we deal with season 2 stuff. Like if we only deal with the ramifications of him going into the snowstorm alone, him being abandoned by Eris, I think he could land here if they do it really, really well, and I like it. But until we deal with that, I feel like I can put him here. I feel like I just want to put him here for now. Ruijerd is my goat. Ruijerd at least is there. I mean, it's that easy, right? Mission with the sun, character growth, manly tears, reclaiming tribe honor, connection to deep theme, connection to deep ideas with the stuff, on this swordsman grind set, making all, or on the spearman grind set, thinking about challenging some of the lower of the 7. He's got it all. Does he beat Paul? Honestly, these top 3, I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? I'm like losing some of my Eris traction because of she's growing out of my protective instinct drive, which is one reason I was so loved her character so much. And into a maybe I don't understand your brain as much as I would like to, and maybe I do understand it, and it's like the way that your brain is and the way you function is something that I'm not sure if I am if I would I'm as excited to engage with as I was before. Not to say that you suck, but to say that I'm not sure if you're going the direction that I thought you were, which has caused some interesting spots, right? But yeah, so Ruijerd though has had there's not been a single moment that I've Ruijerd has only gotten better and better and better and better and better, right? Eris, it's been okay, you kind of suck or whatever, but it's oh, wait a second, oh, I love this girl, and it's maybe I don't love this girl as much anymore. What's going on, the what's going on area with Eris has me fluctuating. Ruijerd's been always up and up and up and up and up. Ruijerd's been going up the entire time, right? He's my boy. So in a way, I want to say that. You know what I'm saying? That almost feels the best, right? Because to do this, it's Eris, I don't know if you deserve, I don't know if I can do that anymore. Maybe that feels good. Maybe this is the GOAT. Maybe Ruijerd, Eris, Paul are my top 3. In that order? I don't know. We'll think. Sacred Beast. You're a cute dog. Cute dog, go burr. Repo, gas. Saros. Boom, boom, boom. Beats Philip. Beats Philip. You got some, you have your maids that you banged, you ignored a bomb, and then you got executed. I pretty much care about you only because of your attachment to Eris. Selfie. Just kind of a kid doing her thing. Bullied. Protective instinct. I feel like she's growing into a Giga Woman now, so that'll be fun to see, but we haven't really seen much with that. I guess I'm intrigued. I'd probably put her, let's say, right above Aisha, at the top of pretty solid, but loses to Ghislaine. I think I'm okay with that. I think I can work with that. I'm excited to see where she goes. I'm very excited to see where Sophie goes. But right now, let's wait. Let's let her cook. Let her cook. Tall Hand, good dwarf. Hilda, Philip, Sorrows, Cliff. He loses to Cliff. Loses to Cliff. I don't remember much of what you've done other than be a dwarf that's with Roxy. Tersina, cute dog child that's there. Beats Sacred Beast, beats Guest, loses to Kurt. Therese, woman, don't know really what's up with you. Caused me to freak out a couple times, that's good. So you probably lose to Cliff. I think that's good. There's a bit of a spot between Therese and Tall Hand, I think, where Tall Hand is I think Therese and Tall Hand is a big split here. Vienna Sausages. I'm going to include her sister with her. Shiera, let's just put Shiera right above Vieira. Just because I learned about her protecting her sister with the booba armor thing. So combo the sisters together. She can go beats Cliff, beats Bartender, beats Sacred Beast. Only because of that little tidbit of information anybody gave me that Shiera is there for Vieira. Or no. Wait. Vieira I have as the booba armor and Shiera I have as the sister. Maybe I flipped their names. Okay. Either way, boob armor lady being there to draw the attention away from her sister, I think is super adorable and sweet, which I would put right above Kurt, but I'm gonna link her loose to Kisharika. Zenoba, figurine man. Beats Helda, beats Alphonse, beats Lilia, beats Philip, beats Sars, beats Allhand, beats Therese, beats Cliff. he's unique at least, right? He brings a lot of like novelty in a sense. And he's more of a comedic character in how we've seen him portrayed, you know. Beats Bartender, beats Secret Beast, beats Gas, beats Torsina. Maybe stops behind Kurt. I think he definitely stops behind the sisters. Kurt's kind of the question. Yeah, loses to Keisha Rika for sure. I think I prefer Keisha Rika. I've grown. Keisha Rika grew on me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. So let's say right below Kurt because I like Kurt's character design. No, right above Kurt because he looks like an Armin but as a tiefling. Okay, Zenith. You don't really get to do that much in this story. Not gonna lie. So maybe you go like right below Kurt, where you kind of do your thing. You're like not nearly as interesting as Paul at this point, right? You're just like a good, caring mother. You know, you got a little bit of spice to you. Maybe, yeah, maybe like that. Maybe that. Is that where we're at? Okay, let's think. Best character for me personally: Ruijerd versus Eris versus Paul. Who wins? Eris has brought me so much joy. Eris has brought me an unprecedented amount of joy. However, the amount of despair she's brought me makes me like, you know? But is it good that she brought me despair? Right? Do I feel like that's added to the story? I don't know. That's kind of the crazy thing. With how Rudy's responding to, like, the sex and the abandonment is, like, I'm here for that, because that's, like, that feels very in line with, like, okay, like, this is what we're cooking with. This is why we're doing all this crazy stuff. It's to see how it impacts Rudy, right? But, like, all this crazy stuff happens, and we haven't seen Eris get impacted by it. Like, her parents' death and then having sex with Rudy. It was, like I almost feel like she's become too Giga Woman. You know? Like, 12-year-old girl that goes from insane temper tantrum, like, emotionally insane woman. You will only be loved by Rudius. Go bang him right now by your mother. Teleports you away from your family, kills your entire family, comes back. Like, she's just, like, I feel like there should be so much crazy stuff going on in her noggin. So for her to be like, oh, I'm fine, I'm chilling, either isn't true and it will get built up on and be really interesting in the future, which I'd be so here for, or is something that makes me, like, be like, Eris, like, where's my drama? Like, I'm even more drama, Eris, you know? Other than just leaving Rudius. And it is a big deal, but, like, she does it, like, it's like she comes out of losing her parents, having sex with Rudius, almost, like, better, right? Where I feel like it's, like, a positive change, where she's like, let me build myself to be even more worthy of this thing, right? But you could also say, like, that's, like, like, this is her insecurity complex, blah, 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 and it's gonna go into stuff. In which case, like, let's see it even more. Like, we see it with some of her POV, which is interesting, but it makes me just feel like she's a victim of her parents and, like, of all these things and of all this stuff being, like, pushed into her brain, which makes me sad. But how does that compare to Ruijerd, who I feel like has always been bringing me joy? Has always been bringing me, like, good character arc, good move Ruijerd, protective against children, I like it, let's shake hands, good talk with Rudius, good holding Rudius to accountability. Like, Ruijerd I've never doubted Ruijerd as a character and what he brings to the story, but I'm starting to doubt Eris a little bit and be a little worried about Eris. And I still love her, and she still brought a ton to the story, that's why she's in the top 3. But I think Ruijerd might win. And I feel like that's almost like the craziest character arc for, like, watching the show. Of, like, the entire time I've been like, Eris top dog, Eris the one, my only, Eris my beloved. And so for her to not be the beloved when the tier list comes, like, feels right almost. You know what I mean? If, like, wow, things have changed. Turning point 3 just hit. Hey, turning point 3's calling. Someone pick up the phone. Sophie is doing something crazy with the Magic University or with the politics, and so that's a turning point now. I don't freaking know. Go guess what the turning point's gonna be. I assume there's gonna be more turning points, right? But yeah, so I think I'm gonna give it to Ruijerd, I think. Just because of how unstable my viewing of the show has gotten post everything with Eris, where it's just gotten so muddy and complicated in a way that, like, on one hand is, like, entertaining and interesting to parse through, but on another hand feels like kind of like a little bit of a mess, to the point is, like, everyone is losing their minds in all these different directions and all these protests are forming. That's like, what are we even trying to say anymore? Like, a part of me is, like, getting like tired of, you know, being like, oh my goodness, what is even going on? And so because that's Eris's fault and Rudius's fault, I'm gonna knock Eris to second. Paul gets spot in top 3 because Paul's interaction with Rudius and Norn was so good. A part of me almost wants to say, fuck it, you know, Paul wins. I really liked that. That was a really good Paul redemption. Really beautiful. Emotions flying, him crying. Feeling good, feeling great on the interstate, bro. Yeah, I was loving the Paul. That was like some of the that was my, I think, the favorite episode in the show was talking to Paul and having that breakdown and that reforming. That was so good. Best episode in the show, I would say. Norn, Orsted, I feel good about that. Orsted's really spooky and really ominous and is validating a lot of my man god fears, which I really appreciate. Minitona versus Rudius. Again, really hard to make this distinction. I'm giving it to Minitona because I like her a lot, but I do appreciate a lot of Rudius' character as well. It's just, there's also, like, it just also gets so muddy and crazy that it's, like, so hard to rank him. He's really hard to rank. Roxy, Geese, Ghislaine feels fine, I think. I liked Geese quite a lot, and then Roxy I'm here for. Sylphie, we just haven't seen Sylphie. Got screen time diffed. Really excited to see where she's going. Aisha, smart. I'm here to see where you go with it. Man God, Gur. Zenoba versus Kurt versus Zenith. Zenith. I'm gonna give Zenith over Kurt, but I'm gonna give Zenith over Zenoba maybe. Zenith versus Zenoba. Zenith is just a little basic, and then Zenoba's just a little insane in a way that I don't like particularly enjoy. It's like not my style. Respect if you like the Zenoba, like go for it, but yeah, she just kind of got hoed by being kidnapped to be a vessel for Paul and Rudius' journey, you know? So it's kind of a issue in that regard. So, like, she kind of got hoed where, you know? But if she didn't, like, S-rank healer, you know? It's like, ooh, that's interesting. What happened back then? Yeah, I think Zenith can win that. Tersina, Gias, I'm fine with that. Sacred Beast, I'm fine with that. Bartender, I'm fine with that. Cliff, I'm fine with that. I'm interested to see where Cliff will go. Therese, good. Tall Hand, good. Big split here. Big split with Tall Hand. He's like the best of the characters that are kind of a little more of a nothing burger to me. Or, you know, like I feel like there's a big split between Therese and Tall Hand. Though Philip was important in the story too, you know, so it's like I don't want to like discount that too much. Lilia, Alphonse, Hilda. I think I'm fine with. Maybe Alphonse can go up a bit, like here. Maybe Alphonse beats Tall Hand. Yeah, I think that feels right. Alphonse being, like, right below Cliff. Because Cliff, I feel like, is going to be interesting and important in the future, while Alphonse is just kind of based, but, like, that's it. But at least Cliff is kind of a mess, and I want to see what that mess develops into. Nanahoshi, straight up know nothing about you. Like I almost want to do another tier just of, like, Nanahoshi, you're probably cool, but I just don't know who you are. And you've said, like, 2 lines, and you're walking next to Orsted. And so Orsted, like, hogged all the cool moments there. You were just kind of there. Meh. I don't know who, like slash Nanahoshi. Wait, what the heck is happening? Look at this program. Look at it freaking out. Meh and Nanahoshi as a kind of exception. No, I don't like there being a gap. And Nanahoshi. Let's just do Meh and Nanahoshi so that if people skip in, they're like, okay, Nanahoshi is a bit of a separate egg in the basket. It's because she is, yeah, because I don't really like... She's... I feel like she could be cool, but Orsted got all the cool moments. So it's like, let's see where you go, but right now I just can't judge you, you know? Ginger York. Your name's Ginger York. At least I remembered your name. Gallius. Ginger York's kind of getting hoed here a little bit. That's fine. Maybe, but let's put... Oh, no, but I don't like it. Yeah, let's just put you here. Let's put Ginger above Nanahoshi. Gallius, Elena Lees, Gustav. Gallius had a good fight scene. But he also was just kind of evil and smuggler, so it's not much to work with there. Nokopar was just annoying. Pax was literally the worst. And Pax. Ew. Okay, there we go. I think we've finished. I think we're good. Well, let's maybe put the Blessed Child, like, right here above Elena Lee's, just because I feel like she could, like, be really interesting in the future. Racist potential, question mark. That's a joke a little bit, but we'll see. And then Almonfi, Banchiro, Blaze, and Edna. I just don't remember y'all enough. I think Bachiro is part of the Tufts. Monfi was probably part of the Beast People at some point. I don't know why they're here. Blaze, I think, was part of Roxy's old party, and then Edna, I do not remember. I think she was probably one of the Eris's attendants. Oh, maybe with the dancing. So, yeah, but I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay. I think I'm done. I've hit the recording hour of 4 hours in my recording. 4 hours, 6 seconds, and 21. Or 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 23 seconds. So, I think that's it for me on this Mushoku Tensei Season 1 to Season 2 breakdown. Eris POV plus tier list plus all that stuff. I'm really curious where Season 2 is going to go. There's a lot of big bars that are being set. And so I really hope that we get some crazy Rudius development. I'm really hoping we get some Eris development too. Some change, some drama, some inner turmoil or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited. I feel like the highest point of the season for me was Paul and Rudius having their conversation. That was very engaging, very pogged. The Eris and Rudius thing I know is the thing that's like the show's probably like known for. And we've talked about that at length, so I won't repeat any of that. Ruby George simply is based and has brought me a lot of joy, and I'm just like, you know what? This is my boy. Like, do your grind set. That's my boy right there. So I gotta give it to Ruby George, I think. I really think I do. Because, man, it was just, with Eris, it was like, man, maybe I don't know her as well as I thought. Maybe she just, maybe she is so, I don't know, but like, I need to know how they're gonna deal with her. I need to know how they're gonna deal with all the stuff that's going on through her noggin, all the things that have been like impressioned on her by her family. I need to know how they're gonna deal with all of that, if they're gonna deal with it. Because if they don't deal with it, then I feel like that's like, it could have been really interesting, but then they avoided it, they like didn't. And so that's kind of a bit of a loss for me. And if she's just fine, then it's like, well, I feel like there could be a lot of cool stuff there. So that's why I'm putting her in second until we see that. Then she can skyrocket back to first. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all we got for this episode. Big season 1 to season 2 of Mushoku Tensei. On to the next. We're gonna do episode 00. Should be exciting. I'll be watching that hopefully pretty shortly, within a few days. Looking forward to it. Until that episode, though, of course, if you like this very long breakdown, if you liked it, like the video. It really does help. Subscribe if you're new. That does help as well. Helps numbers go up. Algorithm picks things up. Keeps me moving forward. You already know how it goes. Comment down below if you have anything to say, anything to add. Any tier list stuff. I'd like to hear y'all's tier list as well, because it's always fun to see how other people care about these characters. Again, this is very personal, very inner biased, blah, blah, blah. You're not a bad person if you love Nokopara, though I wouldn't understand you. Or if you think Elena Lees is the most based woman alive, hey, speak your truth. But, yeah. But if you think Pax is the most based person alive, then we need to talk, okay? But yeah, that's all I think I really got for this one. On to the next. Should be exciting. Of course, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff I already said. Notification bell as well. Check the socials in the About Me. You already know how it goes. But until then, until next episode, that's everything. I'll be seeing you then. Peace.